You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the June 3, 2024 regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with a public hearing of objections to amendments MP 20-09 and Z 22-08 for Charlie Bartlett. Council will later move to grant leave for the first reading of these amendments. Several presentations will be made in today's meeting. Rika Nason will make a presentation on the Community Food Forest Project Initiative. Carl Savoy of King Street Pizza will make a presentation requesting encroachment to construct an accessibility ramp. Council will later move to approve this encroachment. Peter Logan of Teed, Saunders & Doyle will present on the 2023 municipal audit, and Christian Herbert of USVA will make a presentation on the proposed Algonquin Hotel, Spa, and O'Brien House. Under Planning and Community Development, Councilors Harland and Heenan will move that Council sets a date of Tuesday, July 2nd at 6:30 p.m. for a public hearing of objections to Amendment MP 20-02-03 to the Secondary Municipal Plan and Amendment Z 22-09 to Zoning Bylaw Z 22-01 for 742039 New Brunswick Limited. Councilors Harland and Heenan will also move that Council grants leave for the second and third readings of Amendments MP 20-08 and Z 22-06 for Lynn and David Mayo at 222 Prince of Wales Street. Finally, Councilors Harland and Heenan will move that Council grants leave for the second and third readings of Text Amendment Z 22-07 to Zoning Bylaw Z 22-01. Under Finance and Administration, Deputy Mayor Akagi will move that Council grants leave for the second and third readings of Bylaw 24-02 respecting the collection and disposal of solid waste. Deputy Mayor Akagi will also move that Council instructs the CAO to enter into an encroachment agreement with William Thornton of the William and Water Restaurant and Bar for continued use of deck space. Under Public Works and Public Safety, Councilors Bennett and Neal will move that Council awards a tender for asphalt resurfacing to Fundy Paving Incorporated in the amount of $152,660.43, HST included. Councilors Bennett and Neal will also move that Council approves the removal of the east and west four-way stop at Augustus and Water Streets, the addition of no parking signs along Princess Royal Street south of Water Street on the east and west side to the boat launch, and the addition of no parking signs along the south side of Pagan Street. Finally, Councilors Bennett and Neal will move that Council grants Market Wharf access to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for marine vessels and the installation of a jib crane. Under Economic Development, Business, and Culture, Councilors Hurdle and Weir will move that Council approves a request from the St. Andrews Brewing Company to use Market Square for Oktoberfest celebrations from Friday, September 20th to Monday, September 23rd. Councilors Hurdle and Weir will also move that Council supports the Association of Municipal Administrators of New Brunswick Conference, taking place September 10th to 13th, with a sponsorship of $1,000 from the Civic Promotion Budget. Additionally, Councilors Hurdle and Weir will move that Council agrees to an 18-week pilot project with Carey Rideshare, which includes a financial contribution of $18,000 to come out of the Economic Development Budget. Finally, Councilors Hurdle and Weir will move that Council rescinds the Ad Hoc Tourism Promotion Committee and approves Explore St. Andrews as the tourism partner under the Tourism Accommodation Levy. Under Recreation and Environment, Councilors Gumichel and Blanchard will move that Council approves the transfer of $20,000 from the Tourism Accommodation Levy Development Fund for the completion of the washrooms at Indian Point Park. Councilors Gumichel and Blanchard will also move that Council waives berthage fees for 2 vessels of the Passamaquoddy Recognition Group under terms and conditions set by the CAO. Finally, Council will have a discussion on the design of Market Square and Market Wharf, as well as a discussion on a communications plan for the Heritage Bylaw. Now let's join Council at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex, Council Chambers.
All right, welcome everyone to the regular council meeting here Monday, June 3rd, 2024 at the council chambers of the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex. We are as well in person, which there's a lot of attendees, which is great to see. We are on Zoom and Facebook as well. If anyone has any questions, question period is always towards the end, unfortunately, of an agenda. But if anyone has any questions this evening, you can email them to pnopper@townofstanders.ca, and Mr. Nopper will make sure to put that in the Facebook thread. Asking a question or debating on Facebook, unfortunately, is not a recognized way to ask questions. So please email pnopper@townofstanders.ca. Once again, I'm going to record the attendance. All members of council are here, so thank you, council. This is going to be a long one, so I can appreciate the fact that you're all here. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskoto-Magadi people. Approval of the agenda. There is a lot. I'll be looking for a mover to get it out there. First of all, I've got Councillor Heenan and seconded by Councillor Hurdle. Any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none. So all in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's everybody. Agenda has been approved. Disclosure of conflict of interest. Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to declare a conflict with PWPS 240609.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll look for you to recuse yourself at that time. Anyone else? Myself, I will be declaring two this evening. I will be doing one regarding the bylaw respecting the bylaw respecting the collection and disposal of solid waste, as I manage a unit that has apartment building that has over 5 units. And as well, I'll be declaring a conflict regarding the October Fest motion. So I will, I've already talked to Deputy Mayor Akaji, and she will chair the meeting at those particular times. So thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, for doing that. One last call, any conflict of interest? Okay, everything pops up throughout, just let me know. We are going to jump into the presentations this evening. We do have 4, very unusual. But not having the previous meeting, it has kind of backlogged a little bit of business. Ask the presenters to be as close to their 10 minutes as possible, just so the fact that we can hopefully get through this agenda tonight, which is going to be a challenge, to be completely candid with everybody. So the first one, presentation, I've had the opportunity to actually have a couple conversations. Rick Nason is going to be coming forward to talk about the Community Food Forest Project Initiative. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I've asked one of my Food Forest Initiative Planning Committee partners to stand here with me, offer a little bit of support, as public speaking can be a little nerve-wracking at times, as I'm sure we're all aware. So thank you for the few minutes tonight. Listugush is the community that claims me, though I do live and work down here on the traditional territory of the Beskoto-Magadi people. I am happy to be able to bring this presentation forward and speak a little bit about what I've been seeing in the area in terms of a need that has so far yet, in my opinion, gone mostly unaddressed. So you may recognize me as well from the chair at the St. Andrew's Community Garden. And in that position, I lead the community gardeners. But I also, for the last 4 years, have been growing and harvesting food for the Open Door food program in St. Andrews. And that has taken up quite an amount of time, and I work with my employer to be able to spend 1 day a month to go out and harvest this food, fresh from the garden, bag it all up, and take it over to the Open Door clients every month for the last 4 years. So I'm entering the 5th year of doing so, and I'm excited to see where we can go with it. But as our community garden just expanded last year, I am limited still to 2 plots in growing food, so there is a limitation on what I can grow in that area. Next slide, please. The Open Door Food Program, for anyone that's not familiar, is a grocery store gift card based program instead of a pantry style program. So they give out a lot of gift cards instead of pantry style. It's run by volunteers, set up in 2016, and since when I started in 2020 growing food for the Open Door, we were feeding 30 to 35 families on average. That's grown to 55 families in the last 4 years. The last 18 months specifically, we've had an increase in 24%, so currently feeding 55 households, of which it's 149 people. Of that 149 people, 67 are children. And the Open Door Food Program in St. Andrews feeds the town of St. Andrews, as well as the 127s up to Highway 1. So it's a fairly small area. That's a lot of households in our area, especially since most of us consider this to be a pretty affluential section of our side. So this increase is showing and reflecting a need not only in our area, not only in Southwest New Brunswick, but it's reflective of the need that all food banks across this country are currently experiencing. So taking a look at that, looking at the food that I've been growing and harvesting, the limitations that I have in the 2 plots over at the community garden, and kind of wanting to do a little bit more has brought me here tonight. So next slide, please. We're looking at potentially creating a food forest in the town of St. Andrews. Have a piece of property in mind, and you'll find that in the slides that you've been presented. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But food forest as a traditional concept is a program that's developed, it's very old as any of our Indigenous folks here, and it is a concept that is throughout the planet, not just in North America, to take the 7 different layers of a forest and use that to develop it into a sustainable section of land that is primarily growing food for people. In those areas, in that food forest, we're able to use an increased amount of beginning effort, so lots of effort at the beginning, but year over year over year, it requires less effort, less time. It becomes self-sustainable. It becomes a little mini ecosystem. And it's compatible with a wide variety of different programs, such as composting, rainwater collection. You can take a look at even seed-saving programs or entomology courses, that kind of thing. Outdoor education is a huge component of this kind of thing. We have a lot of people in our area that rely on that Open Door program that gives out the $7,500 to $8,100 per month right now. So this is a way to help introduce those clients, as well as anyone else who wants to learn how to grow their own food. I know when I first started learning how to grow food, it was difficult. You go to the grocery store and you look at the carrots that they have there, and then you go to the garden center and you look at the packets of carrot seeds that they have there, and you're like, oh, there's 24 different kinds of carrot seeds. Which one do I get? Which one can I grow best in? What kind of soil do I have? What kind of container do I have to grow in? And so it can get quite overwhelming when you're first starting to learn, and especially if you don't have the resources or money to be able to put that time into learning. There's a lot of people in this particular area that are really big into gardening and really big into growing food. So there's opportunities there to share our knowledge. Food forests are a great way to do that, to bring all of those different concepts together in one space and allow for, again, an increase in habitat, increase in productivity, increase in productivity for the amount of food that we can grow in one small-ish area. It's sustainable, and it can also be a green space for people to just go and enjoy nature. Next slide, please. Food forest in St. Andrews, it has the capacity to address immediate food security challenges that we have, that we're seeing across this country, in our province, down here in Charlotte County as well. Adding that educational component to it helps to demystify that type of knowledge, so we're able to add in people who are willing to teach, people who are good at growing carrots or turnips, or maybe they're really good at fruit trees, or their raspberry bushes are the best in the county. We'll bring them in and see if we can have some discussions about how you too can have some award-winning raspberries, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what we're looking at for this food forest here. We want it to be a welcome green space, open to everybody, where everyone can go and just enjoy, improve the mental health of our people in town. Being able to go spend some time in a green space, sitting outside, it really brings stress level down. It can really lower your blood pressure. It can help attach you to nature, increase those connections to nature. It can also help you reconnect to where your food comes from. Some people have never pulled a carrot out of the ground and just taken a bite. And wouldn't it be great if we could introduce people into that particular thing? We could lower the number of food or number of miles that our food travels as well. Next. Not the first food forest in New Brunswick, not the first food forest in the Maritimes. St. Mary's over in Fredericton started growing their food forest in 2021. Port Elgin High School, Tantramar High School, Dorchester School all have food forests as well, and they are succeeding. We've got some additional food forests over in Nova Scotia, and there's a photo there of a permaculture plan for the Hampton High School site that they put out. Next slide, please. The site that I have in mind is one that was deeded to the town in about the 70s. It's over an acre in size. It's located between the Algonquin Hotel and the Oppenheimer Prager Museum down in that corner. So it's the same side of the street that the water slide is on and just beyond that. So there's a section there owned by the town, large space. From the Google Earth image on the right, it does look like it's fairly treed, but you can also see where there's somewhat of a pathway coming through. Going into that space, there's really not a whole lot in terms of clearing that would need to be done. It is a space where the deer currently use, but I feel like we can do something to work it out so the deer and us may have the ability to do something there. But it would obviously have to be fenced, so the deer would have to be moved out of that particular space, put up a fence, but the fence could even go inside those cedar hedges so that it still looks green from the road. Next slide, please. This is what photos of what it looks like inside that lot. I took those photos last week and the week before. So it really opens up. It looks like from the Google Earth image that there's an awful lot of canopy there. There is and there isn't. It's a couple of trees that have large canopies. Some are sugar maples, and we're happy to have those stay. Maybe we can work on some sugar maple production, some syrup production sometime in the winter. But it's a meadow, and so there's a fair amount of deadfall in there. If we clean up some of the deadfall, pick and choose which trees come out, we can allow for that to really open up and be an absolute beautiful growing space. Next slide, please. Concept, this is a visualization, a concept design by my friend Emily Niche. So this is what it could look like, but it's not the final design. We're still working with deciding where this is going to go, and then we want to work with the land that it goes on to develop what the actual final design will look like. But the dashed line represents the fence. So again, we have that outer section there for the wildlife to continue to have some space for themselves, offers a little bit of a buffer zone between the neighbors over there as well. And there's a seating area in the upper left designated by some benches and picnic tables, large pathway. The brown around the pathway is be some gardening spaces where we can plant food right into the ground. She's designated out some fruit trees, some fruit bushes up there as well. We've got a couple of raised beds. If maybe there's potential here to partner with other programs that are offered in this town that maybe center around carpentry, that kind of thing, future discussions ongoing. But there's potential there to develop additional raised beds or even to place in additional wheelchair accessible beds such as we have over at the community garden to really make this a true accessible space. So primarily focusing on native plants, primarily focusing on sustainability. Few annuals that people are familiar with, your tomatoes, your cucumbers, that kind of thing, because we have our staples that we like, so that's all right. Next slide, please. So starting to close up here, this food forest was a space that not only supports the municipal plan that was written in 2020 to allow for and to create additional green space in our town, but it also supports the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. There's that facilitation of education transfer between our generations of people in our community. We have, again, a lot of people with a lot of knowledge on growing food here. And so we can lean into that. And at the same time, create a green space that also helps decrease the food security needs or increase food security that we desperately need in our community for those that really need it. And there's a lot that need it. Potential capacity here, again, is rainwater collection, composting. Those can all be added in. It's an agri-ecological space. We can do a lot with that. There's ability there to do some sequestering with carbon, hit some carbon neutral goals the town has going on in the future. And again, it allows for that improved community ties, the improved mental and physical health and well-being of the folks who are here, the folks that live here, the folks that visit here. Imagine going for a walk down the Van Horn Trail. My father, when he goes for walks, he needs a destination. So this would be something that he would start out along the trail and go have a seat up at the food forest, have his coffee, take a breath, enjoy the nature, maybe pull a carrot, have a snack, and walk back home. So this is a beautiful place that we could really make this into, and I think we can do it. Next slide, please. The partners that we already have on board are listed here: the Open Door Food Program, the St. Andrews Community Garden. We have Indigenous peoples, we have nonprofit groups, we have landscape architects, permaculturists, herbalists. We have all sorts of people already on board for this, and some of them are in the room today. I've asked them to come and support me because I was nervous to come up here and talk. So they did, and they're here, and these are the people that we will see out at the food forest. They will be there with the shovels. They will be there working. They will be there helping, and hoping that the town of St. Andrews will share our vision and help facilitate our vision into moving it forward. If I haven't already mentioned this, we have already received funding for this in terms of some private donations. We're still applying for some grants, but we have money that is available to use. We're just really looking for a home for this space, and we're hoping that you feel as positive about this location as we do. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much. I know you gave reference to public speaking, but you did a fantastic job, so.
Thank you.
So at this point, we've received the presentation. Does any member of council have any questions this evening? Councillor Harland, and then maybe Councillor Blanchard. I see a finger there, Councillor Blanchard. Okay.
Thank you for the thank you for the presentation. It was excellent, and I just have to say from the get-go, I believe and am excited about absolutely everything that you have shared tonight, and it's wonderful, really wonderful. So my question is, in this model, has there been thought or consideration? I recognize that it is to support our Open Door Food program, but has there been any consideration to potentially a business side of it? So, for example, selling of herbs or selling of plants to support other people being able to do something, or people being able to access fresh herbs, that kind of thing. Whether it's right now or down the road, could there be any consideration to that as being part of the model?
I hear your question, and I thank you for your question. It brings me to a point that I think I might have glossed over. So in this particular process, this food forest, it's built on the concept of being built by community and maintained by community and sustained by community. And so when we invite people in to help themselves to the produce that's there, what we're hoping that to foster is a community of, I need some greens for dinner tonight, but I'm going to go weed this patch here first.
Okay.
Or I'm going to take this, some green beans here because I think those will go really good with my steak tonight. But I'm going to throw some more seeds down for the next person that comes through. And so fostering that type of a community where we can really work together and have that capacity to think a little bit beyond ourselves into the people coming next. I think that that's a piece that I didn't quite hit quite so hard. As for selling, I think there's a lot of things already being sold, and this is looking to be a space where people can go and not have to purchase something. They can give back through an action, as opposed to a monetary whatever. If somebody needs herbs or would like to split some herbs, there's capacity in a lot of these different herbs to be able to take some cuttings, root them in water, and then take them out. So maybe we can add that in as a learning opportunity. We can have some workshops for that. maybe, we have a Thursday from 2 to 4, come down and, this farmer will teach you how to root thyme. Come down and be able to root your own thyme, take sprigs of thyme, root it in a glass of water, you take it home, you watch your roots grow. We'll teach you how to take care of it and then what to do with it and how to overwinter it. And to be able to foster that whole community of we learn together, we grow together, and everybody has an equal opportunity.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Blanchard.
Yeah, not so much a question, but a comment. First, thank you for the presentation. This council, I think, for some time, and myself in particular, have been looking at the green spaces and some of the land owned by the town and trying to think of ways that we could make them more usable, more accessible to the residents of St. Andrews. I think this is a great idea. I love the idea and the fact that it does take that parcel of land, which I've looked at as well. I drive past it most days going home, and just trying to think how we could make use of that and how to make it a little more functional, I guess, if you will, for the residents. So I think this is a great idea, and I thank you for it. So,
Thank you, Mark.
Councilor Blanchard. Any other member of council? All right. Well, thank you again for the presentation. I just kind of concur, Councilor Blanchard. If you look at our municipal plan and talking about green space and maintaining green space, it is great to have green space, but the more green space that you have in your community that can help you with food sustainability, nature is a way of healing. So people, like you said, with mental health concerns, a project like this has a lot of merit. And I did talk to staff this morning just to review the entire agenda, and they have no major concerns over this either. So what typically happens after we get a presentation, not all presentations are well received, but either way, we just take it back and then we follow up on the next meeting and we get word back. So you'll get word back from this council very quickly. And I thank you for being here today, presenting. And I know there is a lot of people here that are supporting, so thank you for coming as well to show your support. And again, we really appreciate it. We will get back to you with an answer very quickly, but I do kind of get the impression already that it'll be a favorable response for your project.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. All right, you are welcome to stay, but if anyone wants to use this as an opportunity to go, I didn't think I heard a baby. Yeah. I think a few more people are saying I should have brought a baby. Yeah.
I walked. I think that's about when we went through where the all were forgetting about Okay.
All right, so we will move on to our next presentation. Not to say this gentleman doesn't have just as much support, but Carl Savoy is up next for King Street Pizza. He will be speaking on an encroachment for an accessible ramp. Floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, and staff. Appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Encroachment, that's what I'm here about. Right downtown. So I'm still kind of like super happy since we've owned the building 5-6 years now. We've been wanting to make it accessible. And the gods spoke, and we got a grant 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, $20,000, which is fantastic for accessibility. So I got the doors ordered. That should be 6 weeks, and now I'm here for an encroachment, approval, permission, an agreement, some kind of thing like that, yeah. So I've sent pictures of what the property looks like and where we want to hopefully putting it. Let me tell you, she's tight.
Turn to page
Yeah.
174. That's the report. I just want to have a look in case you want to ask Mr. Savoy any questions related to it.
Yeah. I got pictures of what the property looked like before. I've got a picture of what the property looks like when people are walking by, and where the bike racks are now, and where the ramp might go. I've had a couple contractors and just other people look at the space and try to give me some ideas, and they're all scratching their head. We're on the lines of everywhere and built up, and so if anybody doesn't think that's a good location for it, I mean, we're up for discussions. We're just going to put it. We'll put it anywhere we need to put it. It's going to happen. just need the okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Council, any questions on this? Okay, I'm not seeing any. To be really candid, I appreciate you being here so a message could get out to the entire business community.
Yeah.
If you're looking to put a ramp in this community, this
Yeah.
council is more than willing to come forward and try to find a solution because this community needs to be more accessible.
Right.
And more business owners like yourself should be applying for grants, looking for assistance
Yeah.
to make their business accessible. We do have
Yeah.
a number of projects we do every year within the community, but the more of us all working together to make this community better, especially
Yeah.
in our downtown,
Yeah.
it's probably the number one complaint we actually get about our downtown is the
Yeah.
fact that it's not accessible.
Exactly.
So I think you've got probably a council that's going to be fully
Yeah.
supportive, let you negotiate it with the CAO, but I'm not seeing any questions. I can't
Yeah.
see there being any concern here. I don't want to, no. So thank you for the presentation. I'm sure
Awesome.
we'll be able
Thank
to
you.
find a way. Between yourself, Mr. Spear, and Mr. Savoy, you could probably figure out the best logistics of making that work, but appreciate it, and
Okay.
thank you very much for
Yeah,
being here.
anytime. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Councilor Taya. Perfect. Thank you. Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, the next presentation is why I thought everybody was here, for the excitement of done like a true accountant. So we have Peter Logan, auditor with Teed, Saunders, and Doyle on the 2023 municipal audit.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Can everybody hear me okay?
Again,
Great. So I couldn't be there in person. I just was getting back from another meeting, so I'm coming to you from the home office. Anyway, we did meet, I guess it was last week, with Council Finance Committee and went through quite a bit of detail on these financials. So my presentation this evening will be a lot briefer, and I'm going to share my screen here. So I've just done a little summary here, kind of the audit findings. So basically, we came in, I guess it was March timeframe, and to do the audit. So our job is the auditors, the independent
Sorry,
auditors.
Peter, to interrupt. It's really hard for us to see in our projection. Can you just blow it up maybe by another 25 or 50%?
How's that?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so our job as the independent auditors is to come in and review the books of the town, their financial records, to make sure that these financial statements are in accordance with what we call Canadian public sector accounting standards. So those are the standards that municipalities in Canada and governments in general are required to follow. So we had a clean audit opinion. So in other words, we didn't find anything that would not allow us to issue the opinion, and that everything is in conjunction with the public sector accounting standards. So that is a clean opinion. Overall, the financial records of the town were in good shape. There was very few adjustments that we had to make. So that's a shout to Chris and his staff for making our job a bit easier, for sure. So some of the financial statement highlights: property tax warrant this year, 2023, was at $5.765 million. Compared to $4.442 million last year. The reason for the increase would have been the amalgamation that happened Jan 1, 2023. So Shamcook and Bayside were now brought in with the town of St. Andrews as part of the provincial sort of reform. Overall revenue this year was at $9.927 million compared to $7.656 million last year. And expenditures were up as well, which you would anticipate with the additional LSDs coming in. So total expenditures were at $8,006,000 compared to $6,448,000 last year. So that gives us this year a surplus under public sector accounting standards of $1.9 million compared to a surplus last year of $1,208,000. The reason that you see these surpluses is because under public sector accounting standards, when municipalities receive funding, either capital funding from provincial or federal levels, that funding comes into the town for capital projects, but it is recorded as revenue. So there's not a pure matching there. So basically, when they get the funding coming in, we recognize it as income, which can create these surpluses. But then over the next 30, 15, 20 years, those related assets are amortized. So they get drawn down at that point in time. And with respect to your funding, so sort of the public sector accounting statements, we have certain things that we expense and certain things that are not expensed. And really, when you're doing your capital or operating budgets every fall, you're interested in the funding surpluses within your general fund and your utility fund. So this year, the funding surplus in your general fund was at $204,000. Utility fund had a loss of $21,812. Last year, there was a surplus of $6,320 in your general fund and a loss of $8,717 in the utility fund. And the other metric we always like to look at too is the debt service ratio. So that is basically the percentage of the town's payments for principal and interest on its long-term debt as a percentage of its total overall expenditures. So in your general fund, that ratio is 4.3% compared to 5.4% last year. So it's actually down. And the province eyes 20% is kind of the maximum for debt service ratio. So the town is well within that limit at 4.3. And then under the utility capital, your debt service is 20.9% compared to 21.6% last year. And again, the guideline for the utility capital is a 50% ceiling. So it's more capital intensive. So you're well within that as well. And then overall on the capital asset side of things, it was a busy year. There was almost $3.7 million of capital assets added this year compared to $3.164 million last year. So these assets are brought in. This year there was also a building brought in from Bayside, so that's included in that addition as well. And then you have things like street repair, water mains, equipment, that sort of thing. The town pays for some of those things out of its own operating account. They also borrow for some. And then there's also the capital grants that are received from various levels of government. That's a pretty quick look at it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Logan. Appreciate the presentation. Council, we will open up for questions, but we did have a extended session last week where we kind of dove into it at a lot deeper level. It is important to note that all these statements are available to the public should anyone want them as well. Council, any questions? Okay, no, since we already had an opportunity, there isn't tonight, so I really appreciate the presentation. It is important just to note on the debt service ratio, not so much something before this council, but if you look at the asset management plan by the town of St. Andrews, it is something that we will have to continue to monitor in the future because maintaining the infrastructure that we have in this community right now will be very tough to do. And of course, we're discussing, for example, the wharf later tonight, which will require significant more debt. So thank you again, really appreciate it. And it is Mr. Spear's favorite time of year, but it has concluded, I guess, at this process. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here and taking us through it last week. Last presentation, a little bit of a change. I know Ray Roberge is here. He is an owner of the Algonquin Hotel from Moncton. A lot of you, some of you might know him. I think he was the general manager at the Delta Beaujolais for a number of years. So nice to have him here with Christian Hubert. They're going to do the USVA presentation on the proposed Algonquin Hotel, Spa, and O'Brien House. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
Good evening, it's on, yeah? Okay, so good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank Geneviève Nollet, who's a great female entrepreneur from Moncton, who had the vision of creating Ouzva Spa in Moncton, which was fantastic for the tourism industry of Moncton. Really helped us tremendously, and we reached out to her last year to ask her, would you be interested in joining the Algonquin team in building a spa, a Nordic spa, because when we purchased the hotel, the idea was, how do we turn it into a year-round resort? How do we get people to come here year-round when it's really hard to get cross-country skiing, and there's a lot of things that are really hard to do. And the Nordic spas are really taking off across the world, and she did a great job, a wonderful lady entrepreneur, so we thought it'd be great to have her as a partner, which she's on. So I'd like to thank also Stephen Dodwell, our general manager, and Cameron Palmer, with Invest Hotels. So Christian is going to take the screen. He's going to present what we have, and I think we've got a really good presentation and really what we want to do is have an impact on the community that everyone's going to win, that businesses will be able to stay open year-round and to make this a year-round tourist destination. And hopefully by us doing this, it'll be a catalyst for more businesses to want to expand and stay or move in and do more. So that's kind of the goal of what we're doing, and thank you very much for your consideration.
Hello. I think, can I share my screen?
Yep, share screen's available for you.
Oh, okay. There we go. Screen. Here, I'll turn this on. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, well, sorry I couldn't make it. Thank you for letting me present. I'm glad that Geneviève and Raymond are in the room, so please feel free to ask questions and I can answer your questions, or Raymond or Geneviève can also answer your questions. So we made this presentation to the Planning Advisory Committee a few weeks ago. We slightly changed the presentation because we did receive some comments, some feedback. So we made some alterations. I had some conversation with Alex after the presentation to get his feeling on this and where we needed to make the changes to based on the feedback that we received. So this is the site plan. I want to spend a bit of time on this site plan overall just to kind of explain what was our intention here. So as you can see here, the large blue turquoise square here, this is the new addition, the Ouzva Spa. What we're trying to do here is not to mimic the original architecture of the Algonquin, but at the same time match the massing, the alignment, the colors. So we are trying to follow some of the design lines, but again, we don't want to match the architecture because not to take away from the existing architecture, the historic architecture of the hotel, and give it a bit of respect there. So in that sense, but we are setting the building back and we are moving the building back. So what I'm going to show you through these slides, and what I want to show you is how subtle and discreet this siting is. So the building is quite set back, and with the alignment, clearing the view to Fort Tipperary that's right over here. And as you can see, I'll show you a few images, and I'll challenge you to see if you can find the Ouzva. It's a very subtle implantation into the site. Okay, so and notice all of these trees here that are on the site that we're keeping, and we're also adding some more trees, which will make it even more discreet. As I go on to the next slide here, this is kind of a zoom into the site plan, so you see a bit more of the building. We have a two-story wing, which is the one that is lined up with the existing Prince of Wales wing. We have a one-story addition here that is closer to the property line. This has a walk-on deck, and we have some pergolas there, some sails, and some seating area, some activity on the roof. We also have a stair that's not shown here that walks down to the activity, which is the thermal experience. Along here, this wall, we have a stone wall, and this is a new drop-off area that we're kind of extending the existing drop-off here, and we're extending it to add some barrier-free parking zones and also a drop-off zone. And it is intended that the parking for this would be in the main parking of the Algonquin, and that we would share parking. It's also intended that maybe 50% of the users of the Ouzva Spa will be from the Algonquin Hotel. That's why we have the bridge that crosses over. So clients from the Algonquin could cross over the bridge, or clients from the town or driving out of town can come here and enter on the main floor, as you can see here. So I'll quickly show you the floor plan. So as I mentioned, we come in here. We also have an entrance on the upper floor, and we have a stair. So as you come into the entrance, you can take the elevator, you can take the stair that's quite open here. But the first thing you do is you get upstairs. So I'll take you right upstairs right away. And as we get upstairs, so you can come in through the bridge, the elevator, or through the stair, we have an aesthetic spa that's here, which is kind of a separate vendor. And then we have the the Uzva Spa with the reception here. So you come into the Uzva Spa and you can pay for your service. There are different services up here, and there are services downstairs. I guess the main thermal experience is so you register here, and then you go down back to the stairs. So I'll take you right back down. And then here in the stair, you come down, and then you have the washroom. So we have a male's washroom, we have a female washroom, and we have a universal washroom, barrier-free or family washroom. So we kind of set it up this way. It's challenging for a winter spa, and most winter spas are not barrier-free. It's challenging because of the aspects of the pool, the saunas, the steam room, and all of those. So it is a bit of a challenge. So we're assuring you that we're making this fully barrier-free, and get a couple of hurdles there to make it so. But we're going through that now. So those are the floor plans, and here outside you have the large kind of stone wall here, and these are all of these would be hidden by the courtyard, the fence. And these are the 3 relaxation pool, like large hot tubs. This is the cold plunge, and this is a hydrotherapy pool with some jets, with some exercises there that's being developed. So the 3 next images that I'm going to show you are basically views from the street. So I particularly chose these views. So I have one at 45 degrees looking this way. I have one that's flat on, and I have one the other side. Now it's a bit tricky because if we're following the angle of the Prince of Wales wing, and the more we move to the building, the more it's set back from the street. When you look at it, you think you're looking at it straight in front, but you're actually looking at it at an angle. So I just want to address that. But so these are the actual trees that are there. So I mean, it is a rendering, but we've located the trees and we've placed trees there based on the existing, so that you can see that. But the alignment with the Prince of Wales wing and the entrance is there. So our concept, as I mentioned last presentation, is that we have a big massing of building, which is mostly of white color, matching the existing hotel. And then we have these 3 volumes that are made out of a natural wood or a whitewash wood. And these volumes are like traditional in shape. So the concept was that we take this kind of silhouette of a house, and then we break it into 3 pieces. And these 3 pieces would mark the 3 entrances, the 3 point of entrances. So the large shape that you kind of pick up here is the main entrance, and we want to bring people, because the building is so set back and is kind of hidden through the trees, but peeking through the trees, you see these kind of traditional shapes made out of natural wood that kind of piques your curiosity and kind of brings you to the main entrance. So, and we use these 3 shapes as a wayfinding inside the building and outside the building, right? So I'm just going to go to the next image here. So the next image, you kind of see a better view. So this is a front view. Now the building is angled, so it looks like an angled view, but it is actually a front view. There's a couple of trees missing here. I had to take away so we could see the building, but there is a large tree here that's missing, and I just kind of hit it so we could actually see the building. So you see the second shape here. This marks the entrance of the footbridge. So that's the second entrance coming into. So you have this shape here and this shape here. And as you'll see in the image, you kind of feel this kind of traditional shape that's kind of set up above the main floor. And it's sitting on, this is a stone wall, and it's wrapping around. So you have stone, you have this white wood here, and then we have this natural wood. And I've got some zoom in of samples of that so you can kind of get a feel of exactly what those materials are. So I'll show you the last view. This is it looks like a straight on view, but this is 45 degrees from the other side. So you can kind of see the traditional shape of the wood piece. And just hidden through here, you have the third piece. I think I see it in another rendering here, but this marks the reception. As you could see, like in the floor plan that I showed you earlier on, is where the main reception of Uzva, that's kind of the third point of entrance. So that's kind of where you need to go, right? So when you see these shapes, naturally, intuitively, it kind of, as wayfinding, it takes you where you need to go. You need to go to the last shape, which is like this shape over here. So I'm just going to show you a few neighboring buildings. So this is the Prince of Wales wing. Notice the white stucco and the red roof, and you've got the Tudor kind of. It's not it's not wood. It's stucco too there. So I think the original was wood, but so you have the kind of Tudor thing style there, and then you have the white with the greenish window. This is the neighbor on the other side. 59 Carlton Street. So again, you've got this kind of white stucco and then the wood shingles, the natural wood shingles. So we're kind of taken away from that house. And I'm going to show you some other existing building. So this is Fort Tipperary. So this is the historic site that we're, by angling the building back and by setting the building back, we're not blocking to view of this building. But I'm showing you this building because of the material. So this is shingle and wood board siding. So wood siding again. And then you have 130 Prince of Wales Street. It's just the next door neighbor. So this is wood siding in this kind of beige tone. So it's just kind of show you the existing neighborhood. So how this building kind of sets in. So this is a fine Uzva game. So we have a panoramic here view of the Algonquin. So we're kind of the historic part of the Algonquin is behind us, and you have the Prince of Wales wing, and just behind here you can see with the arrow is the building. There's actually I ghosted a tree there because that tree it's probably right where we're. There's like a small tree there that's blocking the view, so it probably won't be there. So this is kind of. What you can see is very hard to see there, and I kind of wanted to show you this image to show you how discreet and subtle the siting of the building is with all of these mature trees around the site there. So so this is just to show you a sample. It's an example of batten board siding. It's that color. It won't be exactly that color that we're using, but it's just to show you the batten board siding. The kind of the game or the detailing that we're proposing is that like you have batten board siding, and you can remove the bat and then expose the cracks. And when these volumes, these traditional shapes that we're creating, sometimes it's empty behind it. It's like a false shape, and we put lights behind it. So when we take the batten out of the board, so we leave the board, leave the batten, it leaves a crack, and then the light comes through the crack. So we kind of lit up the volumes from behind. We can't do that all the time. Obviously, when it's an insulated wall, you can't do that. But some of these shapes, you can actually walk behind them, or you can. It's empty behind them. So we put light behind it, and it creates this kind of light box. So this is these we would use as accent colors, not the main color. This is one of the comments that we had received from the Planning Advisory Committee, I should mention. So originally we had all batten board siding, and then I think it was mentioned that maybe it wasn't very native to the area. So we still want to use it as the accents, and that's kind of what more of the Uzva branding that we're bringing over, the identity of the thermal experience and the feeling of it, but the other colors will be more in a white tone to kind of fit with the settings and with the Algonquin. So we're proposing to have a very white or off-white siding. This is a cedar shingle with a kind of a whitewash on it that we're proposing, and this is the white wood siding. We're still kind of looking at these options for cost and for technical reasons, but so this is kind of what we're proposing as the base color of the building. So this is another rendering. So I've got one rendering during the day, a full day here, and then you really see the shape here where the reception is when you come into this kind of bay window, and then you can overlook what's going on, like all of the magic and the steam that's coming out. So when you're coming in and you're walking and you're kind of curious about this wood shape that's kind of peeks through the trees, and then you come into the main entrance, and then you have this stone wall, but behind the stone wall you have this kind of steam that comes through, like the hot tubs and the thermal experience and the jets, and it creates this kind of, and you have kind of the atmosphere that you can kind of sense as you come in, but you can't see it yet, this kind of part of the experience. But as you make your way upstairs from the elevator or the stair, you come up, and then you have this kind of bay window as you are to the reception. Then you can finally see what's all exciting about and what's going on there. And then on the other side here, we have more of this batten board where we're letting light through. And then you've got these sails and pergola. So we're going to have like a walk-on terrace here. So for relaxation area up on the roof there. And I thought I'd show you this view here because, as you know, this spa operates all year round. So in our software, we're able to create a winter view of the spa there, and a night view, because in the wintertime, sun drops down pretty early. So around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it's dark, but Uzva operates nights and evenings, right? So, and in the wintertime. So this is kind of the feel that you would get as you come in the wintertime, that would operate all year round. So that's it, and I'm open for any questions.
All right. Well,
please feel free.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the presentation and the enhanced visuals towards this. Council will open up questions. It's important to note that walkway that you're seeing in some of those images is actually a driveway as well, because there is a staff residence in behind there. So I'm assuming there's lots of room in behind there for cars to turn around, because I've got to think that in some cases people will be dropping people right off at the door at times. Yeah. So, Council, any questions? We do have one of the owners and obviously the architect online. So the floor is yours. It's a good time to ask any questions on design. And it is important to note that O'Brien House would be also part of that, even though there's no additional images in this particular presentation. Council? Councilor Hurdle.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you very much for the presentation and the information you provided as well. It's great additional context to what we're dealing with here. Now, the batten wood itself, I'm not sure who would be the best person to direct this question to, but
Christian, much better than me.
Sure. Okay. Well, Christian, this is a question for you regarding the batten wood. What material actually is that?
Sorry. What material? What part were you?
The blonde batten wood.
So you would have like a natural color batten board siding, and that would be like the accent colors, like the shapes, like those silhouettes of traditional shapes that we're showing. But the main color would be a wood siding, and it would be white or very, very, very pale. So those, what we're looking at is either straight like plank siding, like wood board siding, or white cedars. Shingles, so wood shingles or wood boards.
Yeah, thank you. My question is regarding the yellow wood itself. Is that part of the branding for USVA, the fact that it's the yellow wood? And is that changeable at all, or is that just consistent with what you have in Moncton?
Well, in Moncton, I had some image at the back of the entrance of Moncton there. So the main entrance in Moncton is that it's a natural wood with a bit of a whitewash, so very pale wood, and that's the main entrance, and it kind of becomes the trademark architecturally of the entrance to Uzva. So we were trying to take a bit of that over here, kind of a recall of what's going on in Moncton. And,
a bit of a branding, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, I guess it's not a concern, more or less, but just in terms of the yellow wood itself, we don't really see that in the community, the color of that wood. I mean, you see new cedar being put on, but that will age to gray very quickly.
Right.
So a color wood like that, where it's more of a blonde wood, will stand out as definitely unique in the community. So if that's the intent, that's great. But if not, then it might just be, something that doesn't quite fit with everything else.
Okay.
But thank you.
I guess the color would be very similar to the cedar shingle roof of the house just in front of the Algonquin there. I showed an image, and you're right. With time, like it is treated, but with time it does change color.
Oh, it will.
And
Okay.
I think that house, it has a wood shingle roof, and originally it was probably that very pale kind of wood, like white cedar. Color, but with time, I think they put an oil residue on it to kind of keep its color. But with time, it does get gray after several years. It wouldn't be very undifferent than that. Maybe the renderings kind of come out as a yellow, but really it's more of a desaturated kind of wood color, white of a pale wood, I guess.
That's great. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
On that point, would it be safe to say O'Brien House, it kind of does come across as a yellow as well with the roof that is actually going there? Is it kind of trying to keep with the spirit of the building we know as the Pansy Patch is the building that we're referring to? Is the expectation that will age and blend in with that particular, it was your first example of architecture?
Yes, I guess looking at the O'Brien House, I mean, the renderings, it is a rendering, and depending on which screen you're looking at, it might turn yellow or it might turn more brown, but it was, we're not proposing a wood roof, but we have to get into more of those details there, but yes, we were trying to bring back that natural wood color in the O'Brien building as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other member of council other than Councillor Hurdle? Councillor Gubishal.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. This would be a question for Christian, I guess. Something you said earlier I found intriguing about, you said that not, excuse me, not matching the architecture of the new USVA building would be respectful of the current Algonquin structure. And I just wondered if you could speak to that a little bit more. I suspect that you don't want to just add a building that looks like more Algonquin and more rooms. You want to give a sense that it's something new and different, but some of the comments I've heard is that it should just match, like it should be another casino, or it should just look like more Algonquin, and I suspect that you're trying to avoid that by having a different structure, but maybe you could speak to that comment about being respectful of what's there now. Thank you.
Hey, exactly, yeah, but I mean, there's quite a bit of conversation throughout the world about this kind of approach on how do you deal with historic buildings, and there are different philosophy, like, and if I would to come into a building and I would need to make some maintenance on a historic building, then I would probably try to mimic, and I would call that restoration. But if we're doing a building beside another building with historic value and historic character, I would not try to mimic it in respect to that architecture. In some countries, it's actually illegal to do that. Like, you can't, if there is an archaeological site or a historic building, you can't add to it or add beside it and copy it, because it would bring false information to people later on coming in and trying to distinguish which one is historic and which one isn't, right? So we could probably write a novel on this and spend a lot of time on this discussion and this debate. But I guess from the get-go, we kind of said that in respect of the Tudor, and it would be, it's very hard to do it correctly too, like to really mimic it, and also the fact that the thermal experience, the USVA experience, it's part of the experience is the architecture. As you come in and you walk through the trees, you see the stone wall, you see the steam. So there's that experience. I mean, it's not unsimilar to the yellow slide that's on the other side of the Algonquin, where that experience, it was to attract kids, right? So so you have the pool, which kind of follows the general massing, doesn't follow the architecture, but the massing, and then you have the yellow slide that comes in. Obviously, the yellow slide has nothing to do with Tudor revival or whatnot, but so I mean, I wouldn't compare that as architecture, but in the same sense, like there was a purpose to that slide, and it was to attract kids and families and to use the slide. But in a similar fashion, the USVA experience, I mean, we're trying to create this experience, and as you come in through the trees, as you see this, so it was kind of part of that. It needs to be different, but it's not very different. I think once it's built, once you see it, it'll just be in continuity to the neighboring building, in massing, and it's so set back and it's so hidden in the trees that it's not really going to stand out or be overbearing of the existing architecture, right? So not sure if that
thank you very much. You've answered my question very well. Thank you.
Councillor Hayden.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I find it a lot easier to have a view when it's done up nicely like this. You mentioned, of course, to follow Councillor Gumichel's comment about not following the old tradition of the building. I personally feel we've gone too far to the right with this. I don't think it will stand the test of time, this building, not physically, but view-wise. It will never be the Algonquin. It will be part of the Algonquin, but it will never be. And I just find that we've gone too far. I just returned from Lake Louise, and they're doing a similar thing on the hotel there. And you're correct. They're not following the old Tudor style, but it fits in much more nicely than this package. I just see that in 10 or 15 years, this is going to look obsolete compared to the hotel. It's just my opinion, but I hear lots of comments from people in town, and that's what they're saying, and I sort of have to agree with it. I think we've gone too far to the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heed. Another member of council? Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, again, thank you for the presentation. I'm sort of in the middle. I understand the idea and sort of defining it a little bit from the hotel itself. I did wonder, though, maybe even just some connection in even the roof, like the color of the roof. The red roof of the Algonquin is pretty iconic in my mind anyways, and it's visible from all over town. I wonder if you did, or if there was any thought about, again, materials can be whatever, but even trying to match the color, especially in those areas where the angular part of the roof there, where it is sort of more visible from the front view. Was there ever any thought of sort of incorporating the red roof of the Algonquin, if nothing else in the design, but at least tying it in that way?
It might be something I could try out and have a discussion with the client. To see, I mean, there's a large portion of the roof which is flat. I know the client is looking at options of putting solar panels, and it's the best option for solar panels, so you can't see them from the street there. So it kind of requires a flat roof for that. But there's a whole lot of reasons we came up with these three shapes. Yeah, I guess we could try to see how we would look with the red roof, yeah. But I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's a discussion to have with the client, it's their building, right? So, but we could do some options and try it out. We hadn't thought of doing the red roof there, but. I guess it's something we could try out. I mean, we're trying to focus on bring attention to like the natural materials and the stone and the wood. I find the red it's too bold and it'll take away from seeing the wood. Yes, I guess it's then in that same strategy that we don't want to be seen as we're copying the Algonquin architecture. And trying to copy the Tudor style. So we're just trying to respect it, set it back, and really not compete with it is what we're trying to achieve. But.
And we're also trying to be the greenest spa in Atlantic Canada. So
Any other member of council? Councilor Grubischel, follow up?
Sorry, second one.
That's okay.
Just a quick ballpark. Roughly, what kind of an investment is this in our community? Like, is it $1 million or $10 million? I mean, I missed a couple meetings.
I wish it was $1 million.
So, but in coffee shop talk, it's good to know. Just roughly,
it's a big investment. I would tell you between $4 and $6 million, probably.
Thank you. That's helpful to know.
The other end, so it's
nowadays 6.
Yeah, unfortunately, so it's a big investment, and it's a lot of jobs. But what it is for this community, it's year-round jobs. I will tell you, and she will tell you, the spa is busier in the winter than it is in the summer. And it takes an army of people. But the other thing, too, is this is not just Uzva Spa. Jessica, the local lady who owns the spa, is also going to be in this building. And so her business is going to grow significantly. So you know, it's a win-win. So Jessica's excited about this, and we're excited about having her join there. We're going to have 2 different spas in this one building. So I think you know we are going to build. There will be nothing like this in Atlantic Canada. nothing like this. And we wanted to make sure that that's what we were doing. So, but what this will do for jobs is significant. So, and to be perfectly honest, this is very important for us in terms of our investment that we've made in the Algonquin. We've already put a lot of money in the staff dormitories. We're putting a lot of money in the golf course, and we're going to renovate the hotel, the guest rooms, the restaurants, the meeting space. We're replacing roofs. So, and then, you know, one of the tough challenges that we have is getting people to move here. And so we're looking at you know, you've seen the O'Brien House replacement. Well, that's 20 units, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. And the 3-bedroom units, so we can invite families to come and work here, to come at better pricing of rent than you can get somewhere else. So to say that this project is important for us would be a major understatement. That we need this we need this to move forward with everything else that we want to do. That's how important this is to us. So we thank you for your consideration, your feedback, and we want to do something that people are going to be proud of. No, it doesn't matter what we do. We'll never get everyone to agree. So that we know, but we want to do something that's going to fit in well, that's going to be green, that's going to have a great impact, and that's going to help the community and be a win-win for everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Harlan.
I really appreciate the details that have been taken in terms of combining the architecture and the experience, right? I really can, I understand the vision, I can see it, and I think it will be quite unique and something very special in our community. I also appreciate Councillor Gumachal's question around, you know, what's the coffee shop ballpark figure, because I think we need to be able to speak to that, because there's lots of questions. I struggle a little bit. I think Councillor Blanchard said he was kind of middle of the road. I'm not sure which way in terms of just in terms of the structure of the first piece, because I can't really envision it from a full perspective. I love the fact that there's attention to the trees and to the brick wall and to the steam coming up. I see all of that. I think what I might be struggling with a little bit is the coloring, because it does look more yellow to me than more of a white wash, which I think is what the Christian was, which is what you had discussed at PAC, was kind of the whitewash. And I know one of the I don't think we got, oh yes, one of the renderings that you showed us at PAC was the nighttime rendering where you could see the lighting coming through. All tremendous. I know that this is going to be a difficult, it's going to be a difficult thing for some residents in the town to accept this kind of change in terms of architecture. But I appreciate the fact that you are not trying to copy the Tudor style, but trying to create something that is a bit standalone, because this is a very unique business opportunity.
Sure is.
So it's a complex discussion, but I really love the intent and the vision that you're proceeding with.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other member of council? All right. Well, I will say that the good news of the whole process is from the communication that I've got from the community, from other councillors, is I think everybody likes the merits of the projects themselves. The spa would be a welcome addition to the community. The fact that the Algonquin is trying to become more of a year-round destination, it's a huge opportunity for a community. And when you talk about O'Brien House, the fact that you're investing in your staff, that is such a critical first investment, and the fact that you're looking to recruit professionals in order to enhance the visitor experience, the quality of your employees, your talent pipeline, they are very good investments for the community. So we do really appreciate invest in yourself doing that. I think the only details you could hear from today is the look and feel. There is heritage defining elements to the architecture around the building, but the hotel itself does have heritage defining elements to it. So how do we match something that does say that it is different, but also not make sure that we don't take care of what is an iconic building in our community? So the good news for council and for the applicant is the next step of this process would be a hearing of objections. It's obviously in the package this evening. All this stuff can continue to happen. You can make terms and conditions, including design, right up until third reading. So should you hear back from the community, to some of the councillors' points, somewhere in the middle, and you decide, hey, this is something that we have to go back, we can go back and meet with the applicant to say, okay, let's add this in. They've already made changes, as they indicated when they heard from the PAC. We also have communication from our Heritage Committee. So this, basically what this is the process is just beginning. I do anticipate hearing from the public, and I'm sure the applicant and council will take that under advisement, but at this point, it is a very important project, so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't continue and hear from the public. It's important to note to the public that it doesn't mean this is exactly what happens. We want to hear from you, and so does the applicant, on what you think fits the community. And I do take the comment that sometimes the views are subjective. Not everyone, I'm confident, will say you got it right. It's one of those things that someone's always going to think it's wrong. But yeah, we'll continue the process. Really appreciate you being here, being in the community, and again, the investment you did, especially first thing in your staff. So I appreciate it, and have a good night.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, that gets us through presentations. So we will continue on with the meeting. We have approval of minutes. I will fly through these. Did anybody have any changes to the minutes so I can expedite this process? Oh, it says mayor? Oh, yes. Is that in the actual minutes too? It says David, Lynn and David Mayer. I don't think it is. It's just in the motion, right? I'd say that you typed my name enough, it just auto-corrected on you. All right, so if there's no changes in the minutes, I will fly through these. So the first minutes we need to approve is the 240506 public hearing of objections to MP 20-08 and Z 22-06, Lynn and David Mayo, Monday, May 6, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Could I have a mover for those minutes? For Councillor Harlan and seconded by Councillor Heenan. All in favor of adopting those minutes, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. They've been adopted. The next one is the minutes of the 240506 public hearing of objections to Amendment Z 22-07 text amendment, Monday, May 6, 2024, 6:45 p.m. Once again, a mover. Got Councillor, I think Herdar won that. Seconded by Blanchard. All in favor of those minutes, please signify by saying aye. It's everybody. In the minutes of the 240506 regular council meeting, Monday, May 6, 2024, 7 p.m. Can I have a mover for that? Deputy Mayor Akagi, seconded by Councillor Heenan. All in favor of those minutes, please signify by saying aye. All minutes have been approved. We are now into communications. I'll pass it over to Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Worship. Hi, Council. Happy June, everybody. By all accounts, the kickoff to our summer season was a success, as both Paddlefest and the townwide yard sale had large and enthusiastic crowds. I appreciate everyone's patience as we only had one meeting in May, but the larger agenda tonight may have to be considered over two meetings. Under Council, there are several development files on the agenda, including allowing the Wee Fabric Shop in a residential area, a proposed fishmonger business, new development at the Algonquin Resort, and text amendments to our zoning bylaw. Although it seems like quite a lot, zoning bylaws are put in place to manage and put complementary developments around each other. However, when crafting the municipal plan and zoning bylaw, there are an infinite number of situations that may not be considered, but nonetheless suitable at its location. The rezoning process allows council the chance to consider each of them and determine if it is in the best interest of the community to proceed with each proponent's request. The asphalt tender is to be awarded tonight, and it also came in about $20,000 under budget. Compared to the last few years, that's good news. It needs to be noted, though, that we are barely doing the bare minimum when it comes to the asphalt program. Over the last 2 to 3 years, all we have been doing is paving the areas where underground infrastructure work has been completed recently. It's no secret that the streets are getting in rough shape, and staff will be suggesting a more aggressive program moving forward to improve the conditions of our streets. Earlier this spring, Carey Rideshare Service set up a pilot project in the St. Stephen area. They are now hoping to come to St. Andrews, but to take a chance in such a small population and to make it viable for the drivers, there is a request in the meeting for some financial assistance. This service operates much like Uber, which is a fee-based and rides are requested through a phone-based app. While understanding this may not be for everyone, it is another offering to meet our transportation needs in rural New Brunswick. The new owners of the Algonquin Invest made a presentation earlier tonight on replacing the O'Brien dormitories as well as building a Nordic spa on their premises. The community is appreciative of the work to replace the deteriorated residents, and the proposed dwelling not only provides housing for their staff, but should open up some housing within the community currently occupied by those Algonquin team members. The architect has also been working with our planners over several versions of the Nordic Spa plans that are before you in the same rezoning request. Like the Prince of Wales wing built close to 3 decades ago, there will be differing opinions within the community on its appropriateness. Both the Heritage Committee and the Planning Advisory Committee are in general agreement with moving forward and have provided some recommendations to Council. You now need to determine if you are ready to move it to first reading or not. There are a couple of agreements with the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans before you tonight regarding use of the wharf. As the St. Andrews Biological Station works through their process to refurbish their wharf, they continue to make use of ours to maintain their fleet. They have been good to work with and understand the limitations of the availability of space at our facility. These agreements allow the Viola Davidson to stay in the bay and provide access to the wharf for their other boats. Administration. May was a busy month for job interviews as several seasonal positions needed to be filled as we head into our busy time. With the addition of the day camp and visitor welcome center, plus some prior student staff members who graduated and moved into the full-time workforce, it was an unusual time-consuming effort this year. Like many employers, we are struggling with finding sufficient candidates for the positions, which has led to some workers getting interviewed one week and starting the next. It's not from lack of planning at our end, as we have been running ads since this winter. The Visitor Welcome Center is now fully staffed and open for the season. For the first couple of weeks of June, they'll be running Wednesdays to Sunday, but then going to 7 days a week service after that. I wish to thank everyone for their patience around the closure of Mowat Drive for a few days, as infrastructure connections were made for the new apartment building. As the connections were on the other side of the road, it was a major undertaking by the contractor. Most of the locals know the area well enough to avoid the detour and take alternate routes, but the primary detour through Cornelia Street was steady. The washrooms at any point are just about completed by the contractor and require some landscaping before an anticipated mid-June opening. Before Council tonight is a staff request for another $20,000 to finalize this initiative. In addition to local governance reform, there are other unseen initiatives being asked of municipalities by the provincial government. The asset manager and I have been attending webinars on Phase 2 of asset management planning as required by the Department of Environment and Local Government. While we should have the in-house expertise to implement this, it will be another time-consuming effort on top of everything else that is required for the successful operation of the town. Just like individuals, the town is experiencing high rates of inflation on many of its supplies and services. In fact, possibly at a much higher rate than CPI. To battle this, staff have been attending webinars to learn best procurement practices, as well as investigating group buying scenarios to pressure suppliers into providing better overall prices. Lowering the cost of government services is always on our mind, but has now become a preoccupation in this era of rising costs. The Southwest Regional Commission, in partnership with many local businesses, is hosting the Southwest New Brunswick Business Summit on June 26th to 28th at the Algonquin Resort. It is a chance to network, but also to listen to several panelists to hear their stories and how they overcame pitfalls to become successful businesses. In a region heavily influenced by medium to small business, this is an opportunity to gauge their practices and meet new acquaintances who may be able to provide advice on similar struggles. Under services, the municipal seasonal service open for the summer during the May long weekend, including the Ross Museum, Sheriff Andrews House, and the Welcome Center. It is a big year for the Ross Museum as they celebrate the 200th anniversary of Chestnut Hall with extra exhibitions event and a special exhibit based on Sir Winston Churchill. The Recreation Department is setting up for another busy season, including concerts in the square, day camps, Pirate Day, and of course Canada Day, and a new event celebrating the Van Horn Trail. Please keep your eyes open for posters, social media entries, and posts on our website. The library was also busy during the month of May. In addition to its usual services, they operated volunteer tax clinics where qualifying individuals could have their income tax returns completed for free. Over the season, volunteers completed 150 returns. The Visiting Author program this year featured Jack Wong, a Canadian author born in Vancouver but has settled in the Maritimes. As an author-illustrator, his visit to the elementary school was especially appreciated by the children. Our planning partners at the Service Commission had a busy month in St. Andrews, as we have seen several files moving forward on this agenda. In addition, they continue to work on the municipal plan review and provide guidance to developers and locals on potential projects. It should be noted that they have played an important role in the drafting of the Heritage Bylaw, ensuring that it is reconciled with our secondary municipal plan. The wharf has opened for another season, and for the first time in a few years, it is fully staffed to its proper complement. We have approximately 10 moorings that we rent out, typically to visiting sailors. However, we are seeing an increased use by those who are happy to rent ours for the season instead of worrying about installing their own. There may come a time when we must begin to install more. The bylaw officer has been working split shifts as he does evening patrols to look for illegal campers, questionable activity, and any other public nuisances that may come to fruition. As many communities struggle with an increase in property crime, you have invested in this position as well as more video cameras in public spaces to combat this ongoing problem. The new brush pickup program has gone fairly well, with many homeowners appreciative of the convenience of roadside pickup. That said, there are also a few residents who preferred the past convenience of dropping off multiple piles of brush and limbs at the public works yard. We can review this with council in the future to determine the primary objective of the program. That is it for incidental tree falls and minor clearing, or can multiple loads be picked up by town staff? In conclusion, with the addition of the recreation manager since last fall, the number of offerings for sport or cultural events has increased significantly in the town. This provides for a likable community as we can interact with our citizens, go out of our homes, and experience true community spirit. I recommend citizens keeping in tune to the website, Facebook, or occasionally pop into Town Hall to see what they can get involved in. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear, CAO Treasurer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spear. Council as well. Enclosed, you do have all the staff reports as well as statements for the operating and utility budgets for the town of St. Andrews. Any questions from any member of council? Councilor Hartland.
Thank you, Chris. It was a lengthy report this month. I have a question about the wharf. So there are more and more, it seems like there are more and more fishing boats and whale watching boats. And I'm just wondering, how is it determined who docks at the wharf and who docks at a mooring?
So when it comes to the summer, just about everybody has to be at a mooring for most of the time because there's just not enough room. The traditional fishery has been allowed to overwinter on the wharf.
Right.
And the only vessel that has permission to be there at all times is the Viola Davidson, an agreement you signed last year with them. But everybody else is at the discretion of staff, primarily the wharfinger.
Okay, and when you say in the summer, do you mean like the official start of summer, or do you mean like June?
Well, it's dependent on traffic. So, for instance, there's not a lot of midweek tours right now. So as the whale watching picks, or the tour boat operators pick up,
right,
or the pleasure boaters that, private sailors come in and need more space, then we'll ask others to start to move back out to their moorings so to make room for them, because we have, again, very limited space for a whole lot of boats to pull up alongside.
Yeah, it becomes congested at times. And I would just like to also support your comment that we might need to look at installing more
moorings. Yeah.
Moorings. I think our wharfinger has done a fantastic job in trying to accommodate any boater who comes without having reserved a mooring ball. I know that, people, if they're away, they'll allow other people to be on their mooring. But I think it's becoming more and more, and we want to encourage people to come here as a destination on their boat. So I think that's a conversation, in my opinion, sooner than later that we need to have.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank
Harland.
you, Councillor.
Any other member? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion to accept the staff reports as summarized by our CAO. I've got Councillor Bennett and Councillor Hurdle. All in favor of approving that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's everybody. That has been carried. That gets us through communications. So we are jumping into the bulk of the meeting. Introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. Please feel free to ask questions. Please feel free to debate. But if we are all unanimous on something and somebody has already said it, maybe for this evening we'll move on as quick as possible, knowing that we are going to be tight for the time this evening. But again, please feel free to do due diligence and speak as you feel required. All right. So let's jump into the first one, and we're going to start with planning and community development for Mr. Gopin's sake. Thanks. So, Councillor Harlan, you have the first motion.
Thank you. So this is reference number PCD 240402. And the subject is Amendment MP 20-09 to the Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and Z 22-08 to the Zoning Bylaw Z 22-01, Charlie Bartlett, PID 1515 6425 232 Bayview Drive, first reading. The Town of St. Andrews has received, the background is as follows. The Town of St. Andrews has received an application for rezoning PID 1515 6425 232 Bayview Drive for Charlie Bartlett. This applicant is proposing a retail fishmonger in the existing barn on site. Please see the attached planning report from Alexander Gopin, Senior Planner, for more details. Amendment steps for council has been as follows. Public presentation on May 6, 2024. Public hearing of objections today, June 3rd, 2024. Obtain views of the PAC, May 22nd, 2024. First reading, second reading, third and final reading. Please see the attached document for a copy of the views of the Planning Advisory Committee. PAC recommended a new site plan be provided to council before third and final reading. Council can move to the first reading if satisfied with the information obtained from the public hearing of objections and views of the PAC. And the motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for first reading to Amendment MP 20-09 to the Municipal Plan MP 20-01 for PID 1515 6425 Charlie Bartlett at 232 Bayview Drive, and I so move.
Thank you. A seconder for that motion. Your Councillor Gumichel. This was our hearing of objections earlier tonight. Any discussion? Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Worship. I don't necessarily think that we need to or want to move that to table this at this point, but one of the things that I'm worried about, I think this is a very exciting opportunity, and I really am excited that the proponent's bringing it forward. But when I think about where that's located, it's really at a very prime location for people that are leaving town on their way home to stop and get a lobster roll, stop and pick something up. My concern is that there's parking is very limited there. We also have traffic that tends to line up trying to get into Tim Hortons at the same time in that area too. It can be very busy. What I worry about is that people who can't get into the parking there will use the shoulder as a place to park their vehicles, which is obviously we don't want to have that happen, and can create a bit of a challenge if traffic's lined up coming into the Tim Hortons and people are parked on the shoulder. What does that look like? I mean, I think we probably very much want to start with no parking signs to be there, but have we really considered what the impact of that intersection would look like if traffic is as busy as I hope and think it will be for that location?
Thank you, Councillor. A fair question. We do see that along Highway 127 at another takeout, so I can see your concern, especially cars can't even pull over to that degree because of the curb, so they will be half out on the middle of the road should they try. I guess I'll look over to Mr. Spear. Mr. Spear, I think we could prohibit parking along that street, can we not?
Yes, Your Worship, we'll have to discuss with the DTI because it's actually their road, but I don't see any problem in us making a recommendation. They'd probably follow it to ensure. Depending how, there's 6, I think, believe parking spots along there, and I think that's probably sufficient, but we will see.
Thank you. So we'll have a follow-up on that before. Councillor, are you going to follow up with that?
Just a follow-up question. If it's DTI, can we enforce it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Heenan.
Thank you, Worship and Council. My follow-up question is regarding the washrooms facility. I'm not sure if you got an answer on that, Mr. Gopin?
I did get an answer. So under building code, it would be required to have a bathroom for staff. That can be the same bathroom. It'd have to be a barrier-free bathroom. That can be a public bathroom as well. And in speaking with the applicant, that's his plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
and you can make that a condition that there be a public washroom there.
Because I did notice we received a memo today, I think it was on the removal of trash for the location. So I was just concerned because, once again, to add to Councillor Hurdle's, we don't need the confusion of people trying to drive to Tim Hortons to use the washroom and come out and in and out. So I needed to make sure. Thank you, Mr. Gopin. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Any other member of council? Councillor Gubichel.
Thank you, Worship. I think this is an exciting opportunity for that particular piece of land, and I'm excited to see it go forward. Just kind of a rhetorical question, but more for later on. I'm wondering if it's commercial, if it's zone commercial, in the future, if the fish market doesn't work out, do they need to come back and ask us to change it to some other sort of business?
Realistically, given that we're in a zoning bylaw update and municipal plan update, it might be a very different kind of set of zones. Currently, if you're looking at the central commercial zone, because it is outside the town plat, there could be other commercial uses that go there, and they might have to get a development permit for a change of use. Some of them would need terms and conditions like contractors' yards, commercial laundry, commercial recreation, nanobreweries, vet clinics, service or social clubs, but things like art or craft studios, restaurants, culture uses, daycares, banks, hotels, laundromats. There's a whole list of things that could happen there as a commercial use. And I guess it is worth noticing that the lot next to it is commercial too, so any of those could happen there on the lot adjacent to it, but this one is also adjacent to a residential one, so.
I'm excited to see something happening at that lot. The question was more with regard to something coming up.
Yeah.
So just to follow up on that, so say it switched to a daycare, 4 parking spots, 6 parking spots wouldn't be enough? Would there be a mechanism in place?
They would. So there is a provision in the zoning bylaw that if you change to a use requiring more parking spaces, then you are required to bring it up.
So it would be brought to the planners and then you would
Yeah.
bring it back?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Neal?
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Again, I had the same traffic concern, but I think Councillor Hurdle has covered that adequately. The other comment I had was around some of the conditions that were put forward there, one being the odor-proof garbage containers. Again, we received some communication there regarding the type of container that they were going to go ahead with, and I didn't see anything in that indicating any sort of odor proofing for surrounding residents. And the other comment I had again was just around the development of the sidewalk extending out there. Again, I think in the report from Xander, it indicated that there should be some developer contribution to that portion. And I'm just wondering if we've heard anything along those lines. I know it hasn't been in any of the site plans yet.
Mr. Spear can speak to the sidewalk portion.
I guess we're waiting to see. We haven't brought that up with the developer yet. It was fairly significant cost for one business. People could walk, because the golf cart trail there, which technically I know shouldn't be used, but people could go along there, be cutting through the Tim Hortons lot. But if council is interested in that, we can bring it up with the developer. He's heard it, so we'll talk to him in the morning about it and the costs associated with it, if he'd like to make it a condition, or interested at least studying the feasibility of it.
Thank you.
If I may, there were some challenges because it's a DTI road as well with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I guess the other thing is too, it'd be on the other side of the road because you've already got Tim Hortons there, so it's and there's a question of if we can extend it on stuff. So we didn't look at it seriously right now, I guess depending on, because the nature of the business right now, I guess, is a startup, but we can have a look at it and report a little harder facts of what it would take to put one out there by next meeting.
Guess just on that, my only concern is, has there been precedents where a business has paid for a sidewalk in the town of St. Andrews?
Not to my knowledge, but this might be the first business. It was before my time on Tim Hortons. I don't know if they might have paid to redevelop that corner there when they were put in, but that was before I was a staff member.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Sir, just council.
Councilor
Just to note, you did receive also an email on Friday regarding the updated site plan that was requested by PAC. So you have received at least a newer version that PAC recommended.
Thank you. Councilor Neal.
Again, just a comment on the garbage there. I'm not really sure what an odor-proof dumpster looks like. I'm not sure that exists. Has there been any discussion with the proponent about possibly keeping sort of the animal waste frozen until garbage day? Certainly, in my opinion, be the easiest way to reduce or prevent any sort of odor.
No, usually the terms would be odor-proof. We'll leave it on them, but we'll have a hardier discussion about what that looks like. It's a good suggestion. Even if they double bag a lot of the stuff, it'd probably go a long ways of it. I will say, there was several restaurants in the downtown, and even in the heat of summer, the odor isn't horrific. I know fish is a whole different kettle of fish, excuse the expression, because I couldn't think of anything else. But we will discuss with the proponent maybe just to ensure what that looks like. Short of, the fish plants use those exotic boxes, but they're a little harder to dump and things and may not look as nice. So we'll have a harder discussion with them to see what that actually entails.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any other member of council? Okay, I'll call the question. Those in favor of going to first reading, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. I'll just read it by title since it's short, but we'll just keep it moving tonight. This is bylaw number MP 20-09, a bylaw to amend bylaw number MP 20-01, being the municipal plan bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, read the first time on the 3rd day of June. Next motion.
No. Sorry.
That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for first reading to Amendment Z22-08 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for PID 1515-6425, Charlie Bartlett at 232 Bayview Drive. And I so move.
I'll be looking for a seconder once again. We've got Councillor Heenan. Once again, this will be open for discussion. I assume it'd be very similar to the first. Seeing none, all in favor of going to first reading for this one, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is everybody. So this is bylaw number Z22-08, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. And this has been read the 3rd time of June 2024.
First time.
First, what did I say, 3rd? Yes. Wow, did I ever speed that up, eh? First. Councillor Heenan, over to you, before I read too many more.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. It is PCD 240501, amendments MP 20-02-03 to the secondary municipal plan MP 20-02 and Z22-09 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for PIDs 151-64718 and 013242844 742039 in B Limited called for public hearing of objections. The town of St. Andrews has received a secondary municipal plan and zoning bylaw request for PIDs 151-64718 and 013242844 for 742039 in B Limited, the Algonquin Resort. The applicant is seeking to move from a tourist commercial zone to an integrated development zone to carry out a special purpose development on 2 different areas of land. The proposed plans would fit within the tourist commercial zone and would not conform conform with the height and massing requirements of the secondary municipal plan. Please see the attached planning report from Mr. Henderson, Director of Planning, for more details. The following is the bylaw process to follow. Public presentation, May 6, 2024. Obtain views of the PAC, which happened on May 17, 2024. Obtain views of the Heritage Board, May 17, 2024. Public hearing of objections, first reading, second reading, third reading. At the May 6, 2024 regular council meeting, requested views of the PAC and Heritage Board. Please see attached documents for more details. Staff has provided draft of Z22-09 with PAC recommendations included. Staff are seeking direction on which version of bylaw Z2209 council would like to proceed with. Council can proceed to host a public hearing of objections as per Community Planning Act. As an integrated development zone, Council can still make terms and conditions on the development up until the third and final reading. And the action and motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the date of Tuesday, July the 2nd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. for a public hearing of objections to Amendment MP 20-02-03 to the secondary municipal plan and for the amendment of Z22-09 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for PIDs 15164-718 and 013242844 742039 in B Limited as per Community Planning Act Section 3. I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. A seconder, Councillor Bennett. Discussion on this one? Okay, we did have a presentation earlier with lots of questions.
Your Worship? Oh,
Yep.
sorry. I would suggest council, as we go through this, don't leave, we can set terms and conditions to the third, but I wouldn't wait till them to make the suggestions because we have to discuss them with the proponent. So I'd highly recommend that by our next meeting, if there's some legitimate things that may have a wholehearted request, so we can bring those forward and discuss them with the proponent and have incorporate your suggestions.
For sure, Mr. Spear. I'd actually say that probably once we get done the hearing of objections, that would be probably the time to put it all in. We have heard from PAC, we have heard from the Heritage Committee, but the public, I think there's a lot of councillors that are, I don't want to say on the fence, but love the project, not sure that it's the right design. Everything I've heard in the public is it's a worthwhile project. It is the design. So I think that'll probably give some feedback that councillors are looking for. And on that point to the public is it's important to note that their feedback is an important part of the process. So council wants to hear what the public thinks before we go to first, second, and third reading. So council, if there is any design, let's get out in front of it now. But with that being said, once we hear from the public, I fully expect us to do it again because we may want to incorporate, and there's some great suggestions in the community that we've already heard. Any other member of council, though? Okay.
Your Worship, I would like to bring up
thank you.
Director
Wasn't even looking on the
Henderson,
screen.
as he probably wants to speak on the changes to PAC.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So just wanted to first note that up until third reading, council can set terms and conditions on the rezoning that would pertain to the O'Brien residents and the Uzva spa proposal should council approve a rezoning request. So the terms and conditions can pertain to the external design, appearance, and spacing and building of structures on the Community Planning Act. So if there are design issues which need to get resolved after the public hearing of objections with the developer, that's something which council can establish after the public hearing objections. So I just thought it would be useful for council to have in its back pocket if it's considering the proposal, but would like to establish some tighter terms and conditions around the proposed exterior design. And as the clerk mentioned, there is a recommended series of changes to the draft terms and conditions that I raised with KAC. So that's just pertaining to some of the setbacks that were proposed in the original draft that was sent to council. And I'll just note the draft resolution for the terms and conditions is not actually part of the bylaw. Essentially, it is the draft to kind of discuss what would be the site governing conditions for the development. And so we want to make sure that if this goes out for public hearing and rejection, we're closer to what the reality would be for the site governing conditions if this was approved. So in the report, the other piece he gave a site report where I outlined a few changes. And in the bylaw you have in the package, I believe it encapsulates those changes. So those were with regard to the use of a spa location in terms of the required front yard setback. So originally it could be at 90 feet, but the developer correctly pointed out that would limit the courtyard. So it was deemed to be too onerous, so that was reduced. And there's several other modifications in there as well. So if there are questions on that, I'm happy to just take any questions.
So council, just so you know, you're looking on page 135 for the majority of the changes that are being recommended by the planner and PAC. More specifically, again, you're looking at the feet and the changes, section J and K, which talk about prior issuance of building permits and archaeological sites, and the issuance of the building permits by the development officer and the tourism, heritage, and culture.
Alex, when you're not speaking, can you mute your mic because we're getting feedback from your end?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Can you mute your microphone unless you're speaking because we're getting feedback through your connection?
Sounds like All right, thank you very much for that. Any questions related to that, council? All right. So I will call the question.
So, Your Worship, are we proceeding, just so we know, with the version 2 of the Z2209 with the recommended changes? Just so we know what we're posting out.
Well, over to council, I guess, for that one then. Council, would you like with the changes? I think it would make sense, obviously, because it's okay. Just quick show for consensus with the changes. Yeah, that's everybody. Okay. So that's clarified enough. If we just go ahead, that was just staff direction. Okay. All right. All in favor of setting the date for the hearing objections, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That's everybody. The date's been set. Next one, I am lost my spot there, so I'm flipping back. This one, I think, is Councillor Harland, is it?
It is.
It's yours again.
So this is reference number PCD 240302. And the subject is amendment MP 20-08 to the municipal plan MP 20-01 and Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Lynn and David Mayo, second and third reading. The town of St. Andrews has received an application from Lynn and David Mayo at 222 Prince of Wales Street, PIDs 01323994 and 15097066, seeking a rezoning to the mixed-use zone to facilitate the development of a commercial building. The applicant wishes to demolish the existing garage and replace it with a 50-foot by 40-foot two-story building. The new building would house the Wee Fabric Shop, as the current location is no longer suitable for their needs. Please see the attached staff report and copies of Amendment MP 20-07 and Z22-06. Amendment bylaw process to date has been a public presentation on April the 2nd, 2024. Views of PAC were obtained April 17th, 2024. There was a public hearing of objections May 6th, 2024. First reading May 6th, 2024. And now second reading and third and final reading. Council can move the second and third readings to the amendments. Note, if council wishes additional terms and conditions to this zoning, they must be added as a resolution before the third reading. In speaking with the planners, the mixed-use zone has limitations on businesses, and any change of use would need terms and conditions by the Planning Advisory Committee. So the motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for second reading to Amendment MP 20-08 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01 for PIDs 013239294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo. And I so move.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Akagi. Discussion? Okay. Oh, Councilor Gubichel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a few questions with regard to the options. I guess they're coming up a little bit later, or could we discuss them now, or?
The actual option, if it's pertaining to this motion, you certainly can. Otherwise, we will discuss it at that time.
Specifically then, the very last words, that it could be a personal service shop or a retail store. And my concerns that I brought up before, I missed the May 6th meeting, but at the April 2nd meeting with the proponents here, I brought up the concern that it would be a retail store. And what kind of retail store might it be? Would it be, a place that sold pop and chips or other sorts of things? And that's why I suggest we have terms and conditions, and I'm wondering what sort of terms and conditions go along with being a retail store. Can they sell anything, or just things that would fit with that usage?
So I'm just going to read the definition of retail store.
Just on that, while you're bringing that up, it is possible when we go to that option 1, option 2 you're referring to, it is possible for us just to not do every option within that. Do you know what I mean? It is like you could just put that it has to be related to art, or craft, or you know what I mean. You could limit it more, I believe, because we are customizing that option 2, and the reason we're having option 1, option 2 is because we are going to be making changes, and we just thought it easier to label the use versus refer to something within a zoning bylaw or plan that may change.
But if I may, and not to belabor it, but since we're doing basically a spot zoning, right, and we're doing other spot zonings, and like, for example, the Bartlett one came forward with detailed drawings that showed the signage. There's consideration for lights. There's other things in that area that would be different in this area. Particularly, like, I went down and checked out the Easy Aesthetics place, and when we did that change, I mean, changing zoning is a big deal for neighbors, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, and I'll talk quickly. I went down and looked at the Easy Aesthetics place, and I think it's Easy Aesthetics. You wouldn't even know there's a business there. They have a very small sign. The parking's in the back. It looks like a residence. It doesn't look at all like a shop in a residential zone. So I just would have appreciated more detail with regard to signage, what the parking plan is, particularly lighting. Everyone knows I get excited about excessive lighting. So without wanting to belabor it, I would hope that we could set more terms and conditions with regard to what kind of retail store it would be, and also the aesthetics of that said retail store. Thank you, Your Worship.
I don't know if the planner or Mr. Spear, there was details on parking. We did see those signage.
Yeah, first reading, Your Worship, there was a lot of information provided that, because Council had seen it, we didn't carry it forward to this, but if Councillor Gumichel wants to come down and visit it, but they had a parking plan, and signage may not have been there, but the clerk can talk about it.
Signage wasn't a part of it, however, that the building design and concept was there, and also there was from the developer the stipulation that they wanted it to still have a look and feel of the homestead that's there as well, and wanting to match. So you were presented with design drawings, you were presented it at the public presentation, and in the packages of the public hearing of objections. So you have seen that information.
And again, not to belabor it, but at that time I mentioned that this is a street that requires at some point in the future a sidewalk. This particular residence has 2 driveways coming out. It's a very busy area. This time of year, there's people parking over by the Anglican cemetery, I think, and very close to the first of the driveways. There's also the Scout Hut, the elementary school, and then some of these usage, like having a daycare there. You need a crosswalk. I just don't think that we've completely thought this through, and that's my opinion on this, and I would hope that we would either table it for more information or add more terms and conditions to what kind of retail store and some of these other things might be. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Gubichel, are you moving to table this?
Certainly, I'd like to move to table.
Okay, we have a mover to table this. Do we have a seconder to table this? All right, it's on the floor. So this is, we've got a mover and a seconder to table. Discussion on the tabling. Councillor Blanchard.
We still have an option here. We don't have to go second to third reading, right? We could just do second reading and then provide some further feedback or some guidance to maybe make some changes before third reading, correct?
Correct. Okay. At any time you can do that. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship. I have a fear. The We fabric is fine because I know their clientele. But I also echo Councillor Gumichel that if it opened up as a 7-Eleven, we have a problem. So there's an issue with, it should, in my opinion, just be for the purpose that it's being built for, or something in the similar range, but not to open it up or not for them to rent it out to us. I'm just using 7-Eleven, but to a 7-Eleven, like a convenience store, like, because they wouldn't have enough parking. It's in a residential area. It would mean their hours would be open late, et cetera, et cetera. So there has to be specific guidelines to this, in my opinion. Thank you.
So council, just on this one, if you look at the option 1, option 2 that's further on, is it possible that we could amend that just to say the only uses that are or are compatible with the following main uses shall be allowed: an art or craft studio and shop, and then you end it right there, and then all those other concerns are gone. Does that work from if they amend? Is that something that is
absolutely?
It's almost like setting a term and condition that will kind of meet some of the challenges and concerns that you have.
And then I think when we look at the zoning bylaw for a full rewrite, we'll look at that area closely, because I do think it is more of a mixed-use area, but I certainly understand the concerns at this point. So that will be a more fulsome process then.
Perfect. Councilor Harland, we're still on the table motion, just to be clear. We'll have to wrap that up before we keep going.
Okay. My concern is if we table this is going to delay everything for the applicant, and even if we only do second reading this week, I don't know when we can fit in third reading.
Technically speaking, you can fit third reading into the next regular council meeting, which is on June 17th.
Okay. My preference would be if we can make the amendment. I was a bit surprised when I read this. I thought it was only going to be for this particular use. So my preference would be that it would be just for an art or craft studio, and if we can make that amendment here tonight, that would be my preference, so our applicant can get on with her business. Perfect.
Okay, so let's deal with the motion to table, since we have, unless they want to pull it back, we could vote on it, though. Would you still like to table, Councillor Neal, Councillor Gauchard? Would you want to continue with that amendment? Should it go through? It's whichever you prefer. You can pull it back, or we can just vote on it. Councillor Neal as well? Okay, so the motion to table has been rescinded, so it brings us back to the motion for second reading. Discussion, don't want to close the door on that, just in case someone wants to voice. Okay, I will call the question now. Then all in favor of going to second reading in regards to the municipal plan, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. So let me jump up. This would be it's a little order to make it tougher for me, but I didn't fall for it this time.
And Mayor Henderson, you only have to read everything by title.
Correct. This is bylaw number MP 20-08, a bylaw to amend bylaw number MP 20-01, being the municipal plan bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, read the second time, the third day of June 2024. Next motion.
I think that's the top of page 139. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for third and final reading to Amendment MP 20-08 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan, MP 20-01 for PIDs 0123-294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo. And I so move.
Okay, seconder for that one, Councillor Bennett. Discussion on that one? All in favor of going to third reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That is none. So this is bylaw again, number MP 20-08, a bylaw to amend bylaw number MP 20-01, being the municipal plan bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, read the third time on the third day of June 2024. Next motion will be the longer one. No, we're good with this one.
Yep. That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for second reading to Amendment Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 013239294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo, and I so move.
Seconder for that one, I've got Councillor Heenan. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of going to second reading, please signify by saying aye. All right, so this is bylaw number Z 22-06, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z 22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. That has been read a second time, the third day of June 2024. And then now it's the longer one. So I don't know if I guess we'll get it on the table as read and then we'll amend.
Your worship, you can, if you have a motion that you basically want to just bring up that this is for an arts and crafts studio, then you can literally just say the first line where it says Streets for Lynn and David Mayo for a arts and crafts shop.
Okay,
and you can leave it a
so
sentence.
do you want me just to read it and then, or do you want to read it and then?
I think I'm okay.
You're okay to read it?
Can I make one suggestion, Your Worship?
By all means, you've been here this whole time. No.
It might be just because art and craft studio isn't defined in the bylaw, to say art and craft studio with associated retail, just because I know there's some selling that happens, and maybe that's implied in an art and craft studio, but it's not in the bylaw, just to be clear that they
Okay.
can sell things too.
I'll give Councillor Harland a minute for that. She can read it in.
Okay. So I'm going to option 2, right?
So what you should read is at the beginning of the motion.
Right,
the
but
section.
option 1 is.
No,
still-
you don't have to choose those
Okay,
options. Those
okay.
were just options presented to council.
Good.
What should be read is, based on what we've said, arts and crafts business with associated retail.
That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the following resolution to PIDs 013239294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo. Only uses that are associated with an art or craft studio with associated retail. Is that correct?
As a main use, right?
As a main use.
Does that work for you, Mr. Knopper, with the spirit and the planners as well?
I'm just thinking too, you probably wouldn't have an issue if it went back to a main residential use.
Okay.
So you might want to include that there as well, or say the only main commercial use can be a art and craft studio with associated retail.
And that's what she said.
Thank you. Do I need to read it again?
Probably should, just for public record.
That,
Mr. Knopper brought up a point, so maybe, was there something within her first version that you'd like amended, just to?
With the reference to Z 2201, or?
No, so she read the first motion, and you said that you want to build it, that one of the uses should also be revert back to residential use.
Residential.
So does that need to be in the motion?
It should be in the resolution, just to cover all the bases.
Or revert back to residential
Okay.
use?
all right, let's see if I can get this now.
Then we're gonna change it again on you.
Sorry, Your Worship, I just noticed Councillor Weir had his hand up before we were going. So
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was related to seconding it, or is there a question that is related?
Use the word associated, related, have two different meanings, and I'm just wondering if we should be using the word related retail operation. whereas associated could be another operator running an associated business. But I don't know what the intent is. You see what I mean? Could be another party come in and run an associated business.
Does that word change work for you, Mr. Goldman?
Sure, yeah.
Yep,
That's
okay.
fine. Yeah.
So associated is gone now, related.
Ruth related.
Yep.
Okay, let's try this. That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the following resolution to PID 013233294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo. The only main commercial use is an art and craft studio with related retail operation, or it reverts back to a residential use.
Very good. Did that work for everybody?
Yes.
This is why we don't make up motions in the middle of meetings. That was well done, Councillor Harlan. You wouldn't know that you had a 90-minute meeting with Chris and I earlier today, would you? Can I have a seconder for that motion? Oh, got quite a few. Councillor Heenan, you did lose to the deputy mayor there. Yeah. So seconded discussion on this one, even though I feel like we did have a lengthy discussion on it. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That is everybody. That's been carried. Last motion pertaining to this item.
That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for third and final reading to Amendment Z22-06 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for PID 013239294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo, and I so move.
Thank you. Got a seconder with Councillor Neal very quickly. Discussion on this one. Okay. Oh, yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Does this mean that it's with the amendments that we just made?
Correct. Those are adopted. This is just for the zoning bylaw. Yeah. Good question. No problem. That's okay. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor of going to third reading, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That's everybody. So this is bylaw number Z22-06, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, read the third time on the third day of June 2024. And we are going, I think, over to Councillor Heenan again. A lot of planning and development this evening, isn't it? I think this is the text amendment one, isn't it?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. PCD 240401. Text amendment number Z22-07 to the Town of St. Andrews zoning bylaw, second and third reading. At the March 18th, 2024 regular council staff brought 3 text amendments to the zoning bylaw. The amendments are: 1, the issuing of a special occasion permits under the Department of Public Safety and how this relates to zoning. 2, for the LED sign for the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex. 3, the creation of an integrated development zone. Please see the attached background documents for details. Amendment bylaw process. Public hearing of objections May 6, 2024. Obtain views of the PAC April 17th, 2024. First reading May 6, 2024. Second, third, and final reading. Council received 1 letter of concern from the public specifically regarding the liquor license requirement for special occasion permits. Note that the Department of Public Safety enforces the permits and has regulations on detailing with issues with permit holders. In addition, the public can contact the town regarding noise, complaints, or the RCMP regarding other issues. If council is satisfied with the information provided, second and third readings can occur. And one of the actions is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for second reading to text amendment Z22-07 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01. I so move.
Thank you. A seconder for that one, Councillor Blanchard. Discussion on second reading on this one. Okay, I will call the question. All in favor of going to second reading?
Aye.
That's everybody. So this is bylaw number Z22-07, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, read the second time, the third day of June 2024. Next one.
Motion that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for third and final reading to text amendment Z22-07 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01. I so move.
Thank you. Once again, seconder to go to third. We've got Councillor Blanchard, discussion. Okay. Oh, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Yeah, can I just ask a quick question of the planner there again, regarding the communication we received? Does this sort of rewording actually open up Airbnbs to the 2 a.m. parties that potentially could happen?
You're limited to 4 special occasion licenses per year, and one of the amendments, there's a special occasion and special event. One of them doesn't require zoning confirmation anyways in normal course of business, but public safety may change their requirements again, so we just want to cover the bases. But it's not a permanent liquor license. It's really for special occasions. You can only do a few of them per year. We made the amendment to the institutional zone for permanent liquor licenses there because they had a certain institution had run out of their special occasion licenses, and it was seen that for institutional businesses far enough away from things, having a permanent liquor license makes sense, but this is only for special occasions and special events.
And would not supersede a noise bylaw.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, there's all those other town bylaws that are there to deal with noise and partying and things like that.
Fair question, though, Councillor Neal. That's a good point. Any other questions? Councillor Heaton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be voting for this simply because I'm not in favor of the LED sign at the arena, so that's my reason. It's not for the other first and third text amendments. It would just be for the second because I've had a lot of people concerned and I've had a lot of merchants concerned about us breaking our bylaw. So I will not be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heaton. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor of going to third reading, please signify by saying aye. And opposed? Councillor Heenan is noted. This is third reading, bylaw number Z22-07, a bylaw to amend bylaws number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, read the third time, the third day of June 2024. And I think we're through planning, and I think I'm at a conflict of interest, so I'll recuse myself. Thank you. Just give me a moment.
While the mayor recluses himself, I will need someone to read for me because I am going to take the chair. And so is there a volunteer from the councillors to read for me? I'll read for you, Kate. Thank you. Councillor Harlan. Councillor What? Pay attention, please. Sorry, but you weren't listening. And Councillor Harlan has accepted to read in my place because I have to take the mayor's place.
Okay, reference number FA 240422. The subject is bylaw number 24-02, a bylaw respecting the collection and disposal of solid waste, second and third reading. Staff have developed a new version of the solid waste bylaw for council's consideration. This bylaw focuses on waste collection and recycling. It also addresses large developments, i.e. apartments with 5 or more units. Please see the attached document for more details. Bylaw process included first reading April 17th, 2024, second reading, third and final reading. Note, Council, you have received one letter of concern regarding the solid waste bylaw. Please see the attached letter for more details. If Council is satisfied with the information in the bylaw, Council can move to second and third reading. The motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for second reading to bylaw number 24-02, a bylaw respecting the collection and disposal of solid waste in the Town of St. Andrews, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Harlan. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Neal. Thank you very much. Any more discussion on this? Councillor Harlan.
Oh, go ahead, please, ladies before gentlemen.
Sorry.
So I do have some concern about this. I have received a fair bit of response from actually business owners who are really concerned about the impact on housing for their staff who may be living in buildings that are 5 or more units, and it will cause an increase in rent. And so I couldn't remember the conversation, and I didn't have it in my notes, Mr. Spear, in terms of the significant impact in cost around this. And how did we come to say 5 units as opposed to an apartment complex of maybe 40 units?
The 5 and over is just common practice across the province of New Brunswick. There's no data beyond that. I researched several municipalities, and that seems to be the cutoff number. I'm assuming because they take like a split level and we'll make it into 4 apartments in some places. There's a lot more apartments around than I anticipated, and it does get complicated because I know, you know, on Thursday mornings when you go up Water Street, they're picking up garbage, but technically there shouldn't be anyone. Once you get into the central commercial zone, no one there should be picked up technically, even the apartments above, because it's commercial. So we're trying to add some teeth to that, but it's the will of council. There has to be a number. That's the problem, and it's really what the will of council is. You know, there's no easy solution. That maybe you need to say people can apply to have their garbage picked up, like we have done with some of the other commercial retailers, because our thoughts with the apartments in most cases were they're for-profit businesses, investments, and in, you know, the common rule in municipal government is that through the common services it's residential only, but that's just a rule of thumb, not so much as a hard, fast legal precedent. So you just have to think hard and fast. If you want to table it, we can revisit it. If there's other questions, I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure everyone that is going to have to now pay for garbage will be upset, so I don't know what the magic number is, to be perfectly honest, but staff are open to, and if you want to pick up everybody's in town, that's fine too. But then, for instance, it's not just residential, then what are you going to do about very large establishments, commercial-wise, if, for the Algonquin, just to say them, so why aren't we picking up their garbage? So you've got to, if we're going to look at that, we're going to have to make sure it's for residential and then maybe revisit what residential means.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. And Councillor Heenan?
Yes, Your Worship. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Bennett was first. Sorry.
Okay.
I skipped him.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Yes, I've weighed in on this before in the past, and I'll say it again. If people are being charged, for garbage in their taxes, then we should be picking it up. If we're going to not pick it up because it's more convenient to dumpster it, and it's just easier ergonomically to pick up the garbage, by dumpster, then I believe we need to create a second zone, or we should create a second zone for those residents and not charge them the garbage portion of the tax. If we're going to charge someone for garbage pickup, then we should pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Heenan first, and then Councillor Hurd.
Yes, Your Worship. It's a dicey slope, because what is the magic number? Right? I mean, we face this. If we put 6, it would be a problem with 6. If we put 4, we're going to have a problem with 4. I just don't feel that, like, I've been in apartment buildings that everybody has to pay for their dumpster removal. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 3, 4, or 5. If you own a building or it's in a condo building, you have to have a dumpster because the town will not pick it up. And so there must be other municipalities, and I thank Mr. Spear for looking into it. There has to be other municipalities that face the same dilemma. It can't just be St. Andrews. As I say, I don't know what the magic number is. I'm not here to profess I know what the magic number is, but there has to be a draw. There has to be a line in the sand. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan, and I know that staff prepared when we got our information that it was so many that with different municipalities. So I thank them, and I'll go to Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I obviously, like Councillor Haynes, this is a difficult thing to work through, but just want to respectfully challenge your point of view, Councillor Bennett, just on the fact that if you pay property taxes, you have your garbage picked up, and I agree with that, but tenants don't typically pay directly for property tax. That gets paid by the property owner itself, so it's not something that a tenant would be paying for. And what is being asked of us is that their neighbors are then actually paying for the garbage pickup of those tenants themselves. So I see your point, but the property owner is paying the property tax, but the tenants themselves aren't, and it could be up to 5 tenants that aren't necessarily directly. Of course, it's going to be built into their rent, the ones that are paying the property tax. And so, with the costs going up, what we're asking people to do is to shoulder the cost burden for-profit organizations, and that's where I have just a bit of a sticky wicket thinking that one through. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillor Hurdle, for your points. I absolutely take your points in consideration, and I understand them. But I'm not talking about like the residents in an apartment building paying for their garbage, because yes, they ultimately pay it, in their rent. However, the owner of the building, by paying his taxes once a year, is already paying for his garbage pickup. And what we're asking is that owner, that he has to pay a second time for a commercial contract for that contractor to pick up their garbage. So he's paying twice. So he's already paying for the portion of however many, whatever percentage it is that, in the town that is his garbage. And if it's 5% of his taxes per year or whatever that percentage is, he's paying that once, and now we're asking him to pay it a second time. And that's not fair to ask someone to pay for the same thing twice. And that's just my whole point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Heenan.
But if you're in the business, as Councillor Hurdle said, for profit, you can write off your property taxes against your rentals and against your mortgages. Plus, if you have a dumpster installed, that's also a write-off. So you get to write off your garbage twice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Councillor Weir, I did not miss you, but just waiting.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. I think the big problem we're having here, we're maybe one of the last ones in the province to do it. Everybody else has been doing it for years, and we're suddenly bringing in a rule or a bylaw that people are taking exception to. Everybody pays taxes, commercial, residential, apartment buildings, the whole thing. Some get garbage, some don't. And I think what we've got to do is what is generally accepted within the province of New Brunswick as far as garbage pickup goes for these quasi-apartment buildings, I'll call them. And not an easy discussion. But I honestly feel that most of it is because we're the ones coming late with the bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Weir. Mr. Spears,
Thank you, Worship. And just what really stirred this was we've invested in a couple of housing developments over the last few years that we started doing their garbage, and then everybody else wanted to get on the bandwagon. And we used to enforce it more readily up until that point. And then as the council, it was before the new amalgamated council invested in this and had agreements with developments that would pick up their garbage for a 2-year period or so. Other departments or apartment dwelling units have started putting out their garbage on the Thursday morning. So it's to try to reaffirm what council believes so we can kind of address that. So I agree with you, is that it's to go back. Just so you know, I was looking back at a report that Councillor, that the planner, Mr. Gopin, gave us a few months ago when we first started looking at this, and there's about 8 properties in our new municipality that would be affected by this that are 5 units or more.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd be willing to move to table this if we could amend it in a way that would, if owners and property owners are charging less than industry standard for apartments, if they're somehow offering affordable units or low-income units, that we would then consider garbage pickup. I think there was a letter recently about someone who was offering rents for very inexpensive cost, and therefore they would be forced to put their price up. I wouldn't want to see someone who's able to offer affordable housing necessarily have to increase that because of this. So if we could amend it, if I move to table to amend, to have an amendment for affordable housing.
Okay, before we do that, Mr. Spear, you have something to read?
Yeah, Councillor Hurdle, I appreciate what you're saying, I do. It's the enforcement of that might be really difficult to do. I'd have to ask to see their income tax returns every year to make sure they're following that. I don't necessarily know what they're doing. Maybe there's a way through economic development grants that we could offset it, potentially, to help if we feel that's the model. I just feel that maybe that specifically within the garbage bylaw, the solid waste bylaw, might be a little harder to enforce in my mind.
Thank you, Mr. Spear, and Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, and just to Councillor Hurdle's comments, while I could sort of appreciate that and would like to see it amended to accommodate for that, I guess my question or my concern is how would we do that? So if we have a unit or a building with 10 units and they decide to offer one at an affordable rate, like what percentage are we talking about here? I think it would be very difficult to sort of determine, identify, do they have to have 50% of the units as affordable before they would qualify for this? So that would be sort of my concern. I guess I don't know if that's something we want to get into and try and make that determination, but I just sort of offer that up.
So Councillor Harland and then Councillor Heenan.
I can see while I appreciate the logic, or the rationale, I could see it being an administrative nightmare in terms of trying to enforce that. And perhaps I'm making an assumption, but I'm wondering about the number of 5 units. I think about people who have created apartments or retrofitted houses and created apartments to accommodate seasonal workers, students. There may be 4, 5, 6 units in that building. I worry that that's going to increase their rents. Is the number 5 a fixed number? Is there a way that we can, as a municipality, understand what the who the owners are of the rental properties currently, in terms of, I know that there are some common names in terms of who rents here in this community, but can we look at what they're doing and how they're renting their units, and is there a way to do that kind of inventory?
Well, the inventory itself isn't a problem, but it goes back to the profitability. What is the rents of them? And I'll put it, if I was a different level of government, the province or the feds, they'd make them bring in their tax returns and statement of apartment rentals to see, you'd set the criteria and say you have to send in this information for us to determine. So I guess I'd go back to, and we may be the only ones in New Brunswick that would do this, but that we set up either a new bylaw or a new policy about housing initiatives, if that's their, low affordability initiative, if you want to go down that road, that's outside of this bylaw, that you can lay out the criteria for what you'd support, whether it be garbage, and, well, I'm spitting it out there outside the property, out of the solid waste bylaw, but I think all of it's going to be administratively burdensome, to be honest. And garbage isn't that much. Personally, I don't think we're talking thousands of dollars a month here. We're talking maybe an extra $5 a month for someone in an apartment rental, to be honest. I just can't see it. I mean, if the landlords are worried enough, and not to count, but they could run out on Saturday, take out their garbage out to Hemlock Knoll and drop it off on a Saturday morning. And there's other people, there's probably still private pickup people in town, that still does it for small businesses and stuff that would probably charge a minimal. Staff will support whatever you want to do. We're just in our bylaw, we just set the common ground, and we don't say that anything you're proposing is bad. We just have to come up, sorry, Councillor Heenan. We're just saying that we got to make sure it's administratively possible and it's really within the scope of what council wants to take on.
Okay,
thank you.
Councillor Heenan, I have to go to Councillor Weir first. Councillor Weir?
Well, there's no rule of thumb. Every entrepreneur is in business to make money, make a profit. By cutting it off at 5, it guarantees that someone with 4 units is going to be full ahead of the guy with 5 units. He's going to charge a little bit less rent. So we're giving a competitive advantage to somebody. And that's why I feel it's, you just got to find a generally accepted methodology that's used in the province. And I don't think there's anybody out there doing housing without the intent of making a profit, that they're doing it solely with the intent of affordable housing. They may talk that talk, but they don't walk that walk when they're setting their prices and controlling their costs. So,
Thank you, Councillor Weir. Can I go to Councillor Heenan and come back to you, Mr. Spear? Councillor Heenan.
Thank you. We belabored this to death. We have to make a decision, and there has to be a cutoff. And if I was in an apartment, if I was going to buy an apartment building, part of my cost plan would be garbage removal. And that boils down to you get an agreement with a dumpster company, and that is like $100 a month. It's not a lot of money. It's a write-off. It's your responsibility if you're making money. We as a town should not be subsidizing someone to be profit. I understand, like, if there's a rooming house, it's a rooming house. It's not apartments. So they won't fall into this. It's just one dumpster goes out and that's it. But when you have apartment buildings with 4 and 5 dumpsters, it's a lot of money and a lot of time that we can't afford to do. And I know of a lot of people who have apartment buildings in town who, as Mr. Spear said, makes trips every Saturday. They take their garbage out to the mountain and they get rid of it. And so that is an option that's available. Anybody who has an apartment building, if they don't want to pay a dumpster fee, they have that option. And as I say, we just can't be subsidizing people for profit all the time. We can't be, because we're going to go broke ourselves. And so we have to find a number. We have to do this. And as bad as it's going to be, and it's not a good PR thing. We want to be good for everybody, but someone has to make a decision and pick a number and go with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Mr. Spear.
Yeah, just want to make one point, Deputy Mayor, before Council goes, is up until this bylaw, as you know, there's 2 or 3 nonprofit/charitable housing units in town. None of them have ever come to council saying, will you pick up my garbage for nothing, because it'll help maintain our cost. So it's only become an issue when people realize we're going to start enforcing a number that, it's so minimal in the overall cost in running a building that most people aren't going to be that worried about it, in my opinion anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Sorry, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Again, why can we not create a second tax zone for all the people that have buildings with more than 5 or 6, whatever it is, the number? Why do we not just create a second tax zone and not charge them a portion of the garbage pickup? That way, they're not paying it twice. There's still their responsibility to pick up or to get a contract or to bring their garbage out to Hemlock Knolls on their own. Whatever method they choose, they can do, and that's their business, their responsibility. We're not subsidizing them if we do that, if we have a second tax rate, but really, anybody who's in one of these buildings now that's going to have to pay for garbage through a contract or whatever other means that they're going to choose, they're really going to be subsidizing the rest of town's garbage pickup, because they're going to be paying for it twice. They're going to be paid for the service, and they're not receiving that service, and then they got to pay for it a second time. So let's have a second tax zone for those that residents, all the residents that are part of that group. You know, in my last community, and I know I said this in the past, we had two tax rates simply because of what streets had streetlights and what streets didn't. The streets that wanted streetlights paid an extra $100 a year for taxes. The streets that didn't want it didn't pay that extra $100. It's simple. I'm sure it takes a little bit to get the tax zone set up, but once it's set up, it just gets paid. And that way, nobody's being paid twice. Thank you.
Okay, council, we need to come to some sort of decision about this or table it. But I think we should come to a decision like Councillor Heenan says. I can't make that decision, sorry.
If we're going to table it, we'll need staff instruction, what's going to make this move forward, what information you're missing that we can provide to you in future meetings is all we'd ask.
Thank you, council. So that staff needs to know what to do, and we need to make a decision. So what is your prerogative? We don't want to be here all night, Councillor Neal.
Deputy Mayor, actually, make this a little easier too. There's some wording I noticed over the weekend that doesn't line this up compatibly with the new, with Shamrock and Bayside. There's just a couple of paragraphs we have to rethink.
Okay.
And so if you go through second reading tonight only, give us a time to amend three of those.
And then table the third.
Well, then, if you have any questions between now and the next meeting, let us know, and that we can provide information to what particular councillors are looking for to make it easier for third reading.
Council, how does that go with you? That we go on with the second reading, and then for the third reading, we will wait for adjustments from the staff. Hello? Yes?
Yes.
I don't see any heads nodding. I don't.
So you can just, yes.
All right.
You can call
thank
the
you.
question,
So, well,
Deputy Mayor.
And then we have a mover and a seconder. So I will call the question. All those in favor for the second readings, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Councillor Bennett noted as contrary minded. Now for the third reading, do we have to go through it or we just leave it?
Well, no,
Okay.
Madam Chair, you actually have to read the bylaw for second reading. By title.
I have to read it?
By title.
Just the top.
Just a second, I gotta get my glasses. All right. Just by title? Excellent.
Just by title.
Okay, so this is the bylaw number 24-02, a bylaw respecting the collection and disposal of solid waste for the town of St. Andrews. Be it enacted by the Council of the Town of St. Andrews under the authority vested in it by the Local Governance Act, Chapter 2017, C-18,
Deputy
and
Mayor.
amendments thereto, hereby make and enact for the bylaw for the following.
Deputy Mayor.
Title, what?
Deputy Mayor, you're good. You just have to read the title.
Oh, that was it?
That was it.
Oh, I don't have to go through it. Thank you very much. And that happened on the 3rd of June, 2024, the second reading. All right, thank you very much. Now can we invite the mayor back before he falls asleep in the washroom? Somebody want to get the mayor, Mr. Spear?
Deputy Mayor, you really should make a motion to table third reading because it is on the agenda. So just somebody put a motion on the table for.
Somebody put a. Yes. You can just sit out. We're just going to table the third motion. So I need a first. So Councillor Heenan is first and a seconder, Councillor Weir. Here's the question. We are going to table the third reading for the next meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Councillor Bennett. Did you contrary minded or you were just a little slow with your hand? Okay, so it's all passed. Thank you.
All right, I will need a motion to continue. We're at the 2.5 hour mark. I knew it was going to be an issue tonight. So I would need someone to move to extend the meeting. Councillor Heenan to extend, a seconder to extend. Maybe we're not. Apprehensively, Councillor Harlan. The motion to put the extension of the meeting on the table. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of extending the meeting, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hold on. That means that I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is that safe to say? Okay, but before we do. Okay, let's slow it down. Motion to continue. All in favor of continuing? Just hold your hand up if you want to continue the meeting. For 1 hour, I guess. It's the, I've got 3, and who would like it to end now? That is the meeting concluded. So we will have to either add these items forward to the next meeting or plan a special meeting in order to continue to get
So,
through the
so
town
please note, council, that if you do adjourn the meeting will have to take place technically within 5 business days, so a posting will have to go out tomorrow, noting that the meeting will continue on June 10th at 6:30 PM. So that would be your next Monday, basically.
And then
That's our work night.
Technically speaking, it is your work night, but because you are still in council and you are still following the process, you would have to complete the regular council meeting first before any other work can be completed or started.
Just having a quick scroll through.
It may, depending on how much time it takes to get through the rest of the package, but staff would still like to at least bring forward the registers and have any discussions that council would like to have. So yes, you would basically have another
So
2 meetings.
we'll start with the unfinished business, and we'll see what we have remainder for time at that particular time. Okay? So, with that being said, we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn. I've got Deputy Mayor Akaji, seconded by Councillor Kubashel. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. The meeting is over.